living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations that have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham Estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, should we say, interest by the police in what are very, very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey Epstein for Jeffrey Epstein's financial gain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. What is it? Just gone 6 o'clock. Ooh, welcome along. It is Wednesday, of course, the 25th of March, like you care. This is Talk, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brett, you're very welcome to the show. As ever, your views on the news of the day. There's so much going on. But as ever, apparently the A-team are back. Christian, just looking the business today. Damien, G-Spot is here. Nahar is here, and some baldy blokes replace Mark. Dave Doubledecks is in the chair. The button pusher supreme, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to be on the show between now and 10, as ever, 0344 499 1000. I'm thinking of instigating a prize for the first voice note of the day. Get your thoughts in, get them to Christian nice and early, 0344 499 1000, or your text, my friend, to 87222. I'm going to promise you a calm, balanced and unangry start to the day. No, I'm not. Rachel Reeves, you know that one. It looks like Richard III, that can't add up. Anyway, our Chancellor stood up yesterday in the House of Commons, and basically with the fuel shortage that everybody knows is a-coming because of what's going on in Iran, with an energy price hike that everybody knows that is coming, not because of Iran, as you would like to be told, but actually because this damn government believe that net zero's the way. She really did the business yesterday. She basically said, and I quote, I'm going to make sure I concentrate on helping, well, people on benefits, because the last government, all they did was help rich people, and that's why I've got no money to spend. So it means, alarm clock Brits, those of us who work, those of you who are just working and paying your bills, you're screwed. If you're feckless and you're sat at home, and I'm not talking about the genuine people before people start on me, you'll be absolutely fine. What do you make of that? 0344 499 1000. You know that appalling story about those Hetzola buses, ambulances rather, in London and Golders Green, were reported on Monday. 4 basically set fire to. An absolutely appalling example of the rise of anti-Semitism in the United Kingdom. Sadiq Khan has been criticised. Good, hurrah. He hasn't actually been down to the scene. Right, I thought you were the mayor of London. And later on, I'm not going to do it right now, you could just... I don't want to have a go at any other television station. Why would I? Yes, I am. Good Morning Britain used to be a mainstay of balanced journalism when I was at ITV. Yesterday, Ed Balls, who, let's just point out, is married to the Foreign Secretary, took aim at a young man, Dov Foreman, the great-grandson of a Holocaust survivor, and said basically, in no uncertain terms, don't you think what Nick Timothy said about Muslims the other day rather spoke and sort of fueled the fire of what happened? So what are you saying, Ed Balls? You're saying that the Jewish community, that happened to them because Nick Timothy dared to call out a Muslim gathering? Absolutely outrageous, and at least this station knows where it stands. I thought that was a disgusting piece of journalism. We'll talk about that. And Morgan McSweeney, do you remember him, the Chief of Staff? He lost his phone. This is a brilliant story. Basically, on that phone is the Prime Minister's number, text messages to Mandelson and WhatsApp messages that the police want, but the phone's gone missing, and Met Police say they didn't investigate it because they were too busy and they took his wrong number down. Bit fishy, that, and it smells a bit. Loads going on. We'll talk royals. Nobody in Australia wants Harry and Meghan. We've got the amazing Tom Bauer on the show, but let's get going. 0344 499 1000 with a man who looks like he's been out all night on the razzle. He said to me just now, I'm riddled with hay fever. Good morning, the one and only Charlie Rowley.
Good morning, Jeremy. Very nice to be here, as always.
You've been me for a couple of days and you're starting to work out how it feels like, haven't you?
I have, and it's the sort of the early morning starts here, for example, which is always great to be here, and the sort of later nights as I've been on the road.
Been on the campaign trail, he's been doing some independent work, but he's been working like a dog, and we're not letting you off the early mornings. Lovely to see you. Just had your hair done. What's happened to the hair this morning?
Well,
a bit of a quiff going on.
I tend to put a bit more product in, but I'm au naturel this morning.
There's a thought. Let's start with Rachel Reeves. Let's play the clip. Yesterday, with no apology, she's going to... I know exactly what they're going to do, by the way. They're going to blame their ridiculous energy madness, net zero, which is increasing prices. We know that long before the Iran situation. She made it patently clear in this clip that she's only really interested in helping those who are on benefits. Have a listen. This is Rachel Reeves.
As we respond to this crisis, we must learn the mistakes of the past. The previous government pushed up borrowing, interest rates, inflation and mortgage costs with an unfunded, untargeted package of support under Liz Truss. That gave the support to the most wealthiest of households. I can confirm to the House that contingency planning is taking place for every eventuality, so that we can keep costs down for everyone and provide support for those who need it most, acting within our ironclad fiscal rules to keep inflation and interest rates as low as possible.
Charlie, you're more intelligent than me. Later on, we got Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, on the show. They go on and on about ironclad fisc, brilliant economics. This country, let's just forget Iran for the moment. This country's energy bills are going through the roof. This country's interest rates are going through the roof. This country's unemployment statistics are going through the roof. And she is still trying to blame Liz Truss. It doesn't wash anymore, does it?
No, you're absolutely right. And I don't think people buy it either, because this is a government that's been in for about 20 months now.
Yeah.
And as you say, the list is endless. Inflation up, unemployment up, youth unemployment in particular is up. An economy where the construction sector is retracting when they need to build 1.5 million homes. That is the way in which that they were going to deliver growth, that growth that they kept talking about at the last general election. But this is also a government, don't forget, that on one of its very first days in office took away the winter fuel payments from pensioners. So the audacity to stand up at the dispatch box yesterday and say that we're protecting the most vulnerable people, you were the one that decided that actually winter fuel payments, people that need that payment the most in the most coldest months of the year, they wouldn't get the support at all. It'd be withdrawn.
Front of the Mail, middle class to foot the bill for Reeves's Benefit Street bail fuel bailout. The bottom line is that philosophy is not and cannot be blamed on the war in Iraq. That philosophy has always been the Labour philosophy, which is why I sit here every single day and will continue to say this. We are spending £407 billion this year on our welfare state. We're spending an eighth of that on our military. The fact of the matter is this government is biased towards those who are unemployed. And before everybody jumps up and down, let's take the 4 million people who are unemployed. All they say to me, the do-gooders, is, oh, you know what, these are all disabled and unemployed, disabled or mentally ill. No, they're not. Let's be conservative and say half are. Really, really needy people that this society, me, everybody else should support. But unless we have the debate that says that there are people, not just illegal migrants, lazy, feckless people who will never work, who are trapped. They're not trapped. They've taken hold of a system that basically wipes their backside. And now we've got a government that would further feather their nest against hard-working alarm clock Brits. Doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Jeremy, you're absolutely right. And look, the Daily Mail say it's the middle classes, and that's fine as a label for people. But the only thing that I can think of is Theresa May got it right when she talked about it's not the middle classes, it's the jams. The just about managing.
Absolutely
that
right.
Is the middle. That is middle Britain. There are millions of people.
The way she talks about rich people, it really winds me up, right? Yeah. And I'm not talking about rich. People listening to this show, man and woman, if you're allowed to say, with 2 kids, is that allowed anymore? I don't know, not if you're a girl guy, presumably not. But on a serious note, he's at work, she's going to work, the kids are going to school, just about managing. They must look at that and go, I'm not rich. Yeah. I just live my life as I thought I was supposed to live my life. And yet again, this government is wiping the backside of people who do nothing, whether it's illegal migrants or people on welfare. And it has to be called out. Morning, Pete.
Rachel Reeves, Richard III, Gwendolyn from Wallace and Gromit. I can't believe what I heard coming out of her mouth. It's time to put the country first. Well, shouldn't have been that what she was doing in the first place, putting the country first from the day she got her job. They're a damn disgrace, this government, including Rachel from accounts, the faker with the fake CV. She has to go. This is now beyond the joke. It's dreadful. And let's see who she looks after in this current crisis, because you can be damn sure it won't be us.
And that's what I mean, and that is genuine frustration. And I get really angry when people will say, oh, you're talking about right-wing. No, I'm not. I'm talking about absolute common sense, which is the very edifice of what talk is. As long as I'm sat here, I'm going to keep saying this. How can you say to people who live their lives correctly and work their butts off, we are going to discriminate against you in so many ways, and we're going to benefit everybody who doesn't lift a finger for themselves? It's fundamentally wrong, Shelley. We just don't believe that... I believe that millions of people agree with what we've just said. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And but on top of that, there are levers that the government can pull to actually alleviate the crisis without going after those that are just about managing, those middle-class families that are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And that is by allowing drilling in the North Sea. We can extract oil and gas to bring bills down for everybody tomorrow if we wanted to. We could cut out the green levies, so what you pay on an energy bill, that doesn't just go to the cost of your oil and gas. It goes to green new technology.
Even Christian says he's bored. It's really simple.
Yeah.
I'm skint. Yes. But in my garden, under the grass, I have all this gold, which would pay off all my debts. But it might upset my neighbours that I bought a crane in. Sod my neighbours, because actually, by the way, Norway, what's happening is they're trying to get to the gold anyway, and I might buy... It's honestly, it's the most ludicrous thing I have ever heard in the history of my life, and it gets these listeners more than anything. Bill in Romsey, morning both. After Reeves's performance yesterday, which was a non-embed unless you're on benefits, the question is, after the election, she goes, doesn't she, with Starmer? They are inextricably linked at the hip. I was reading over the weekend, they're not as close as they once were. He's attached himself to somebody, and people might be offended. I think she's utterly, utterly incompetent. I think she is out of her depth. I think that the two of them together are such a bad look. They've been hugely unsuccessful. But it comes back to this and I call it unfairness. I don't see how any government can look itself in the mirror and say to hard-working Brits, Thanks very much for doing everything correctly, but we're going to punish you and we're going to say to anybody else, well done. Listen to Mark in Croydon. Once again, the lazy, rewarded for being lazy and getting help thanks to me working. What I really hate is people, Jez, who say you're lucky, you can afford things. It's not luck, it's because I bloody well work hard and I save and I do the right thing. Rog in Wales, with most people in favour of oil and gas production, the time we had a referendum on support for stupid net zero, they won't do that. We've been talking about this all week. I mean, Ed Miliband is literally... He's dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Yeah, and he's holding on to the line that, oh, you know, the cost of oil and gas, it's, you know, international markets that set the price. You know, we can't do anything about it in the UK, and that's why we've got to come up with some state-funded, centralised intervention policy, which, you know, as Rachel was trying to say yesterday, the Chancellor, that will just help the most vulnerable. No, that's not the answer. It's making sure that everybody's bills can come down by taking the amount that you charge on people's bills that goes on to green levies, getting rid of that. That will instantly bring people's bills down. You could do that yesterday.
Yeah.
And the Chancellor failed to do so. And look, there's no... that previous text said is absolutely right. Of course the Prime Minister is going to distance himself from Rachel Reeves, because after what could be a very, very terrible set of local elections...
Well, it will be. Everybody knows it.
And he'll want to try and reshuffle his pack.
You mean he'll want to apportion the blame for being completely incompetent?
And I think he'll try and ditch the Chancellor.
Well, listen, I think... Now, whenever we get into this sort of debate, and I think this is a really important voice note, there are genuine claimants across this country, some of whom who get really angry and say, what are you saying? I am not. The whole point of why I go on about this every day is that if you are simply doing... If your theory is to just help people on benefits, and that benefit bill is blooming and ballooning to the point where genuine hard-working people are missing out, that's fundamentally wrong. But the point that I want to make is the really genuine claimants are also missing out because too many people are being afforded the chance. I said it yesterday. When I left school, you went to work or you went to college. If you leave school today, you go to work or college, you'll sign on. It was never a career choice. Morning, Debbie.
So, yeah, I'm one of your PIP people, but I can't help having PIP. I've worked all my life. I'd love to work. I'm just in so much pain. I have a spinal stimulator in my back and on so much medication as well. But honestly, if I could work, I would work. When I hear everyone moaning about people, I love my country, very patriotic. I hate my country, how it is at the minute. Anyway, I'm not going to moan because I'm going to sit and enjoy your show now.
See what, lovely lady?
Yeah.
I'm happy to get up at any time of the day or night to protect a woman who's worked and has got an injury and cannot work. She is exactly the person that the benefits and welfare state system was set up for. Not people who spent... I did a show once. Christian won't like this. His finger's going to hover over that. I did a show for ITV and it said living on benefits. And I lived in Preston, a pretty depressing thought. No disrespect to Preston. And I swear to God, from the first morning to the fifth morning at 7 o'clock with a camera crew in the middle of a street in Preston in a house that I'd lived with a security guard, not one bugger was out of bed. And every house had a Sky Dish and most houses had a new mobility car and none of them were out of bed. I was brought up differently. If you didn't have it, you'd have got out of bed and walked up bloody hill to get a job. And that is what I've told my kids from day one. And I hate more than anything the people that say, oh, it's all right for you. What, you just get given stuff. That's the problem. They get given stuff nowadays and they don't work for it. And I am completely with Debbie.
Absolutely. And look, you know, Debbie, I think, was just saying what you would hope, or would have been, I think, in the past, the majority of what people think, which is...
Do you not think the majority do think that now?
No, I don't. No, I think now there is this idea that, you know, you're entitled to something that you can just take, because the state will pick up the bill for you. But there are people who do suffer from anxiety and mental health conditions. But they will tell you, by going to work, that's helpful to them.
And the genuine ones like Debbie, she wants to go to work.
Exactly, because it gives you purpose. It reduces that isolation. You can see work colleagues. You can actually achieve something, achieve goals and missions and all the rest of it by going to work and focusing on what you can do and be positive in overcoming a disability or managing it. Not what you can't do, and therefore I should just stay at home, pull up the drawbridge, take, you know, what the state can give me, and thank you very much, and I'll live that life for good. That is not the way we should be going forward as a country.
If we are, as a country, allowing a system that makes it better for you to sit on the dole than go to work, I think we're in real trouble. Steve, listen, here, Jez, Charlie, So I've worked from the age of 18 to 60 on my own pension, not benefit. I have a relative who has worked about 3 years. If they're lucky, on benefits. I get nothing. They get extra. It makes no sense. James, there was a vote in the Commons yesterday to attempt to force the government to commit to more oil and gas production in the UK. It was defeated. Not one Reform MP voted. Is that true? I'll put that to Sarah Pochin later. Why would they not have voted?
I did read that story somewhere, but I have no idea.
We'll put that to Sarah Pochin. Good point. Ben in London. Good morning, Jez. Good morning, Charlie. Rachel the thief is just trying to buy votes in the May elections. I hope people have the sense to realise that this is going to ruin our country. I find that I'm going to... Dave in Carlton. So I'm a jam. I won't get any help. I'll have to pay for the scroungers. Maybe I'll eventually see a breakfast club. That's about as much as I can think. Can I just say, actually, without... wanting to upset anybody, we now have a government, in my humble opinion, and I agree with the buying of the votes, that panders to different sections of the community simply to save its own skin. That might be the people on benefits. It might be people coming here illegally. We need to face up to that truth. It might be that they've looked at how the election has worked out in Gorton and Denton and thought we need to pander to the Muslim community. We need to have this discussion without fear. I really, honestly, there you go, 20 minutes in, I'm more angry than I was yesterday. Every day? Yes. Can you calm me down in this break? Can you rub me down and calm me down?
I'll do my very best.
Lovely. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Jezza. Matt in a very wet, windy Warrington loading the van. I'm sick and tired of these ministers blaming everything on the previous government. Yesterday I watched Starmer in London getting grilled by the parliamentaries about the military. Well, it was the previous government that did this. You've been there nearly 2 years and you need to sort it out. They're all the same. I'm sick of hearing it. I just give up. I give up. They're going to blame everything on the previous government. They're going to blame everything on Iran. They're going to just blame everything apart from the fact that they are useless.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:23. It's Wednesday morning. You're waking up to the news that our Chancellor, Rachel Thieves, the ones that can't add up, stood up yesterday in the House of Commons and basically said, we're in a really bad position. I mean, oil prices, petrol prices, diesel, everything's going to go up, and it's basically the fault of Liz Truss, the Iran war, and it's nothing to do with my incompetence at all. And basically, I refuse to accept the bills were going up anyway because we're obsessed with net zero. But what I'd like to say more than anything is I want to protect the most needy. So if you're on benefits, I'm going to help you. And the rest of you rich buggers, you can suffer. I see. That's her analogy, is it, rich people that go to work? No, we're talking about jams. Great point from Charlie Reddy. Just about managing people. Shaney, good morning.
Morning, Jazza. Shane here in Bournemouth. That video of Richard III then going on about how she's making life... Well, she's going on about how the Conservative Party put prices up. She's just absolutely skyrocketed fuel. And she's got the nerve to stand there and say, oh, the last government... mate, honestly, she really winds me up. Her and Starmer and Lammy, honest to God, they need to go. It's just ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous. You got Starmer, we didn't have anything to do with the war. You got him, you got Lammy, he doesn't really do anything. And then you got Richard III, who just takes the absolute mickey with everyone's money. And all the while, everyone else who doesn't work, like, you know, is living a lavish life. You know, you're going on holidays and stuff. How are they doing that? Oh, mate, honestly, something's got to give, Jeremy. Something's really got to give. Have a good day, mate.
Great, I will do. I can't disagree with him. Something has to give where you are basically saying, this has really gone this morning because people are working hard, alarm clock Brits, and they're going, so I don't understand this. You can break into this country and be given more than I've got when I go to work and pay taxes. You can sit on your backside a bit. I'm going to keep saying it all morning, take me on. Not to the people who are genuinely in need. Mentally ill, disability, I want to support you. The lazy, feckless... It's like the two-child cap benefit thing, right? Everybody knows what I did for 15 years. I can categorically tell you that people that I used to meet would have children because they would get benefits. I can categorically tell you that when you see a man or a woman begging in the street with a dog, you get £17.50 for the dog a month. We've become... It's not untrue. It's become... I walked past a man who was... This is unbelievable the other day. And he had like a brand new mobile phone. He sat there with last night, I've no money. He was texting his friends. I'm sorry, our priorities have changed. Let's move on and just get even more annoyed. Let's bring up Sadiq Khan. Great. Sadiq Khan is criticised for failing to go to the scene of that Jewish ambulance attack, the Hetzola ambulances, which I want to say every single day, funded by the Jewish community, driven voluntarily by the Jewish community in Golders Green in London, for the whole community. In the Daily Telegraph today, this is them... Before you have a go at me, Sadiq Khan only shows up when Muslims are attacked. He made some sort of wishy-washy statement, and I think a spokesman yesterday said he's proud to stand side by side with London's Jewish community, and this afternoon visited Stamford Hill to meet community leaders. He listened to their concerns and outlined the action being taken by police and partners to ensure London's Jewish community feels safe and protected. I'm not sure if there's any bias or I'm being unfair to Sadiq Khan, but anti-Semitism is undoubtedly on the rise, and it is not afforded the same importance as Islamophobia. All those things that we talk about, and I've said it repeatedly on the show, don't like any form of racism, but the Jews don't get a particularly good look in, do they, under Sadiq Khan?
I don't think they do, and I think that was telling when a couple of years ago protests were taking place outside Parliament, for example, and, you know...
I mean, you'd go to the site of the arson attack, wouldn't you? If you were the London mayor, you'd go to the site.
Yeah, you'd have to. I mean, it's your job, you know. You are, you know, the first resident of London, as it were. You have to protect all Londoners, and, you know, when there is, as you say, you know, the figures show... a rise in anti-Semitism over and above any other kind of hate crime taking place in this country. Yeah. You've got to take that seriously. You know, when the government is prescribing people like the Palestinian Action Group, rightly so in my view, even though I know that's going through a challenge in the courts, but if you allow things like, you know, from the river to the sea to be broadcast across Parliament and not say anything about it, not, you know, say that that was wrong as the Mayor of London, you're allowing the fueling of anti-Semitism, I think, to rise. And when you have a government, as you touched on it again, you know, this Islamophobia law that we have to create to protect a particular community. No, a hate crime is a hate crime, regardless of your skin, your colour, your background, your sexuality. Everybody in this country should abide by the same rules, the same laws, as we all do.
But how do we when a government has two-tier policing, two-tier justice, two-tier bailouts, two-tier everything? That's the point. It goes further, and I want to play this for a reason to Alarm Clock Brits. Ed Balls, who's a presenter on Good Morning Britain, that used to be a mainstay, I thought, for broadcasting. It's him and that angry lady. What's her name again? I never remember her name now. What's her name? Come on, the presenter of Good Morning Britain. Susanna Reid. I was joking. Yesterday, He's interviewing a really impressive young man called Doff Foreman. Now, this guy is a great-grandson of a Holocaust survivor. He's so affronted by what we said him. He's going to be on this show later on. That's guaranteed with Samara Gill after 9 o'clock. But basically, Ed Balls is interviewing this guy who stood at the scene of this crime where these ambulances have been set on fire. And Ed Balls decides to use that Nick Timothy speech. This is the shadow justice section of the day who didn't like the fact that 5,000 Muslims at the end of Ramadan were praying in Trafalgar Square with Sadiq Khan, turned up for that. I have views on that. But the way he basically said, and I'll play it, do you think that because Nick Timothy said that, that sort of encouraged attacks on Jews? Right, this is unbelievably bad journalism, and he's married to the Foreign Secretary, who represents a party who have been accused of not really caring about anti-Semitism. Take it away, play this.
And Dov, when you see last week the Shadow Justice Secretary Nick Timothy singling out the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, for praying in Trafalgar Square in a Muslim group and saying that is wrong and shouldn't happen, isn't that the kind of intolerance and divisiveness which is causing problems in the Jewish community right now? Do you condemn that as well?
Well, look, I think that the Shadow Justice Secretary was going to a point which many people in this country feel about Islamist extremism. I won't get drawn into a debate on whether his words were right or wrong. We're here to talk about this anti-Semitic attack this morning on the Jewish community.
What do you make of what Ed Balls did there yesterday? I've done this a long time. That to me tells me everything I need to know about what he thinks.
It was a tenuous, to be kind, link to try and suggest that one might influence the other. And you can't help but then look, as you said, he's married to Yvette Cooper. I was just double-checking Yvette Cooper's constituency. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a constituency that does actually have a particular Muslim population that feels as though it might be under attack, where the Labour vote may need to go after, like in Gorton and Denton, to hang on to power. Now, people might say, well, Charlie, that's a bit of a stretch, but no more than a stretch to what we've just seen from Ed Balls asking that particular question of someone in a community that has just had their 4 ambulances being targeted specifically. It is a hate crime at best, to put it that way, at worst, an act of terrorism.
And I go back to it after the Southport riots, which were appalling, and some of the people on the streets of Southport deserve to be locked up. But Starmer galvanised police, courts, judges, prison cells that weren't available before, called everybody far right and rounded them up. No, these buggers haven't been rounded up. Mark, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Jeremy. It's Mark in Lancashire. Lancashire, England. You know England, where the English live? Well, I'm looking for a media and a political class who are brave enough to criticise Islam on behalf of the English people, not just on behalf of Jews or any other offended minority, because that's what's happening now. Like, as soon as anything happens to ambulances, there's a major outcry because the media knows that Islam is very bad, but they can only criticise it when there's a victim that they think is virtuous to stand up for, like Jews. They don't think it's virtuous to stand up for the English people because that's far right and nasty and bigoted. So we're just othered. Whatever happens to the English people doesn't matter. Sick of being a second-class citizen, like a piece of worthless garbage that exists just to work and pay tax in my own country, England.
Some people will be offended by that. Utterly understand where he's coming from. Completely.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think, going back, well, it's tied to what Nick Timothy was saying, the act of, and what the criticism was, an act of domination, as Nick Timothy's story.
I mean, we have to point out that other religions will have mass gatherings. But to me, there's a bigger issue than Nick Timothy's words. And the bigger issue is almost what he just said. This country's always been welcoming and opening and moralistic. But it's like so much in this country, it's gone too far in the other direction. People don't get job interviews unless they've got something wrong with them or they've got some deviancy that they put. I mean, I'm making a point here. We favour perpetrators of crime over victims. We favour illegal migrants out over people who and I keep saying it, who've come to this country and built a life and done it correctly. It's all out of kilter.
Yep.
Companies don't employ people on ability anymore. The whole thing is nuts. Good morning, Jezza and Charlie. I am ready to go to work. I'm 2 years away from retirement and I'm tired. I've had cancer, I've got long-term health conditions, and yet I have to help people on benefits. I'm working class, not middle class. I have kids who are working since they left school, not one on benefits and not one receives help with anything. Their rent's extortionate, their council tax and bills are going up. It makes me so angry when, I'm sorry, Jez, I see people sitting on their backsides and they have more delivered on a plate than I could ever afford. Margaret in Birmingham. Morning, JK and the hard-working Charlie. Well, you say I'm not Margaret. Margaret. Ed Ball should be reported to Ofcom. He never learns, does he? Ex-Labour MP says it all. This is interesting. Even the Bible is on the side of Alarm Clock Britain. Thank you. If anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat, is a principle from 2 Thessalonians 3:10 in the New Testament, emphasising a strong work ethic and discouraging idleness, written by the Apostle Paul. It advises those who are able to work but refuses to contribute should not be supported by others. Even the Bible is on the side of the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Morning, Jez. We live in a society that has 3 or 4 generations in one family that are on benefits with no intention of getting a job. And now we have a government who gives them more reason to stay in bed. Where does this end other than civil unrest? We know how this country looks on the international stage. I feel like I'm part of a country that's a laughing stock. One more here. Jez, I've worked for 45 years, 15 of those in the forces. I am sick and tired to my back teeth of working for the benefit of others. The lazy, the defectors, the invaders. I'm looking for a way out. I'm going to take what I can before the country goes bankrupt. I'm also thinking of leaving. Pretty sure I'm not the only one. How sad's that?
Terribly sad. You know, the despair that people are obviously thinking of feeling in this country right now because of all of the issues, you know, that you read about daily, you know, crime up, unemployment up, you know, the economy sort of, you know, going down, the cost of living up. You know, people are struggling out there. People are really feeling the pinch. And that's when there is a mentality, on the one hand, in this country where you know that, look, if times are hard, you've got to work harder maybe. You've got to maybe take on 2 or 3 jobs. And there'll be a group of people that are doing that. They're doing that today. But there's another group of people that feel, oh, right, well, you know, I'll just expect to be given a handout. That is not the way we do things in Britain. That's not the way we do. You know, when times are tough, we roll up our sleeves, we put our shoulder to the wheel, we make things great again.
But I think that's a really salient point, because I think that's sort of what I call Britishness, probably get into trouble for that. That spirit, the Dunkirk spirit, is being trodden into the ground because people are going, why should I go to work? I might as well sit at home and get more money. It is utterly incomprehensible to me. And you incomprehensible.
And you can't blame people for that to a degree. But you know, the people that are thinking that, you know, will still probably go out to work and do the right thing. But when you hear the stories, again, just waking up, if you are, you know, in the situation where you feel absolute despair. I mean, it was a story a couple of weeks ago which we talked about, you know, the idea that you can come into this country illegally and be paid up to £40,000 to leave. £40,000 of UK taxpayer, hard-working taxpayers' money. That is ridiculous.
To go home, by the way, to a country that you despise, put the money in the bank, get in a dinghy and come back again.
And this is but governments are thinking about this.
Be calm today. It's all gone wrong.
You know, this is something that the Home Office, the UK Home Office, obviously put to ministers in government. Government ministers are looking at these kinds of proposals. They're taking them seriously. And whilst they're taking those kinds of proposals seriously, it feels like they're taking us all for mucks.
Completely agree. Steve says, Charlie, Jezza, listening to your callers, they sound like they've just about had enough, as I have. But what I'd like to know is who the hell still believes just what this government is saying? Somebody must. I don't think anybody does. Phil's in Coventry. I've worked all my life. I'm now 62, never been out of work. But why are you so incensed, Jez, that our own people don't seem to want to work when our own government give people that break into our country, everything from day one? Completely agree. Bill, I'm retired now, worked 40 plus years, all on PAYE, never received any benefits, never fiddled my tax, never been a burden on the NHS, and now I'm taxed to the hilt, inflation out of control, third world local services. Why did I bother? I might as well have had bloody mug tattooed on my head. That is how Alarm Clock Britain feels. 22 minutes to 7. Good morning to Matt.
Morning, Jezza and Mr. Rowley. So what's the betting that these migrant hotel owners also get some sort of help with their energy bills, because they must be going through the roof? It's widely reported that the radiators and the heating is on all day, the windows are open, there's 3 cooked meals a day, all the ovens that are on, all the hot plates that are on, all of the people in their rooms as well with their mini cookers cooking rice and beans, which is why some of the hotels have caught fire. Those energy bills in those hotels must be going through the roof. And what's the betting? That they will get some sort of handout and it will be swept under the carpet. You know what will happen.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 20 to 7. It's myself and the legendary, hard-working and very, very tired Charlie Rowley.
Good
You all right?
morning. I'm very good, yes.
We're talking Rachel Reeves today. Middle-class families, well, basically, you lot, alarm clock, but it's going to foot the bill because energy prices are going up. It's all about the war in Iraq. But, well, it's not, is it, Rachel Reeves, you liar? It's because your incompetent government is obsessed with net zero. But yesterday, you made a really good point. She's going to lose her job and she's going to walk off into the sunset saying, I helped the poorest, the lazy, in many cases, who don't work.
Yeah,
get a benefit bailout.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when this government's had no real strategy over the last 20 months, I think the only political thing that I can say about Rachel Reeves is that she's now decided to think, right, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go out with saying what I actually think, which is I want to rejoin the EU. I'm happy to be back paying all of these UK taxpayers' money to all of these schemes like Erasmus, like, you know, aid, EU aid schemes that, by the way, fund poor towns in Europe, not funding poor towns and, you know, left behind communities in the UK. That will be her legacy, on top of just saying, yep, I gave away a load of money because I tried to help those, in her view, would be the most vulnerable, but be people that won't be putting their shoulder to the wheel and won't be getting up and doing a hard day's graft like your listeners this morning.
Couldn't agree more. Morning, Lee.
Morning, Jezza. Lee from Scarborough, in his van, again, off to work, veteran, mate. Reeves, Miliband and Starmer, the most three dangerous people in this country at the moment. These are absolutely ruining this country. I've worked all my life, never not had a job, never claimed anything, not a penny, yeah? Nobody's going to help me, Jez. Nobody. Only person who's going to help me is me. Get your fat, lazy asses out to work, earn your money, support your family, and do what's right. Alarm clock Britain, let's wake up. Come on, Jez. Good show, fella.
Brilliant. Honestly, to me, that's the Bible of what... That just sums up why I do this show. Because why would he get out of bed in a cold, wet, windy morning, drive his van in horrible conditions to earn money, to pay more tax, to try and support his kids, to be told probably the money that we're going to increasingly take out of your wages is going to be spent on people who do nothing. And we need to be honest, and I am sick and tired. I mean, people will say to me, they'll go, but you know, you don't know what it's like to be unemployed. Listen, I'll go back, I'll say it all day. Tick box. I'm going to turn this show into a tick box show. I am totally supportive of those who cannot work and need our help. In fact, I think the welfare state and benefit system was the greatest invention the modern world had ever seen. But unless we acknowledge, as Lee quite rightly says, that we are basically the state is suffocating the desire to do anything correct and saying to a lot of feckless people, we'll wipe your backside. It's not how the world works. I mean, it needs to be called out.
Jeremy, you're right on the money. But this runs through everything in our society. So whether it's immigration, illegal immigration, people say, oh, well, you know, all these people need our love, support and help. They don't. If you don't recognise that, then you're just allowing thousands, millions of people to come into the country, and you're denying people that are in genuine need. As a British society, we've always helped people that are fleeing refugee to come in. With the health service, if you don't call out the people that might not actually really need to use it, the people that are signing off sick because of, you know, mild anxiety or whatever, they are denying that time with the doctor for someone that actually needs it. And it's the same in education, in health, in housing, all through society. If we don't call out people that are taking the mick out of all of us and cheating the system, you're denying a place, or you're denying that funding going to people that are actually in need. And that's what I think gets people going, and that's why...
Vote Kyle and Rowley. Vote Kyle and Rowley. But it's true.
A joint ticket. We could do.
Joint ticket, yes, love. Right, 6:45. I don't ever see this wonderful lady this early in the morning, but she brings a touch of class and her own sense of brilliance to it. We say a very good morning to royal biographer Angela Levine. Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What an introduction, goodness me.
It's nice and early. I wanted to get you on straight away because a couple of stories have sort of landed overnight, which I know are right in your wheelhouse. This is a real surprise to me. He tries to feign surprise but doesn't carry it off. Many Australians are demanding that the odious Harry and Meghan pay for their own pseudo-royal visit, as a petition to not use Australian taxpayers' money hits more than 32,000 signatures. My view would be, Angela, there ain't anywhere in the land anymore that's going to swallow their lies, is there?
No, well, obviously not. I mean, Australia knows exactly what's going on. They're not a new country. They're not a country that gives in for nothing. I mean, they don't want her. They don't like her. When she last came, just after she was married with Harry, she was extremely rude. She was extremely rude to the staff. She didn't like anything. She demanded things, better rooms, better this, and all that was in the publicity. The papers were using all that. So they think, well, why do you think you should come back again if you hated it so much last time? But this time you want us to pay us a load of money. You're not in the, you know, they're not going to do it.
Do you think we'll ever get to a point, Angela? I was thinking, you know, I was reading, Charlie's here as well, there's this whole thing where you can go to this wellness retreat somewhere in Australia and meet Meghan for £1,700 or something like that. And I mean, that's how far this woman has fallen. Do you think she'll become ultimately, Angela, the Z-list celebrity that does... I saw Miriam Margolyes gets paid £50 if she farts or says good morning to somebody on one of those little video messages. Do you think in time, Angela, we'll be able to get a hello to your sister Sarah from the Duchess of Sussex? Do you think she'll fall that far? Because let's be honest, she'll do anything for a few quid, won't she?
Well, she will do anything at all. And if you look at what she does when something goes wrong, she then sort of comes up with a list of what she's going to do straight away. Oh, I can do that. I'm going to do that on my own. You know, she's going to produce things, she's going to write things, she's going to do everything because she is so clever. And the problem is none of us can understand it or recognise it, you know, but we're all right. We can all see through it. And
do you think she's clever, or do you think she's deranged and rather manipulative?
I don't like the word deranged. I think she's incredibly cunning.
Good word, cunning. Yeah.
She's incredibly cunning, and she can frighten the life out of people because she pretends 1 minute she's charming, smiling, lovely, and the next minute she's absolutely vile.
You only have to look at the amount of staff that have left them in...
Well, there's a number of staff who've left. Yesterday I was saying it was 35 had left by October 2015. So 2050, that's right. So she's just terrible, and I think she's completely ruined Harry, who I remember him for 15 months. He was a jolly guy, and he was get a bit bad-tempered sometimes, but then we all do. But
what do you mean? I've never been bad-tempered in my life, Angela. What are you talking about?
I bet you have. Otherwise, you're not a proper person if you're just a sort of, oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. And the thing And the thing about that is that he's now scared of her to bits because she doesn't know if she likes him, if she likes him or she doesn't like him. He doesn't know what to do. And all this pushing. She's there every second. Now, if you go out with someone, you work with them, you talk with them, but, she pushes.
I don't want to go into too much detail, but I've met a couple of women like Meghan Markle in my life. Make of that what you will. Is she a narcissist?
Well, I'm not a medical person, so I refuse to say that. But what I will say is what I see and how she behaves. And, she lets this little girl, her daughter, allegedly, and her hair's never brushed. She had dirty stains on her dress. She was hiding under the table the other day when we last saw her. What does that mean? That's much more interesting to me than actually...
Who was hiding under the table? Lilibet?
Little Lilibet. She was under the table. And there was also a sound of crying, but nobody quite knew where that was from, yes.
Here's a question for you. I think we all agree that she's slightly... I think cunning's a great word, by the way, Angela. I think he lives in fear of her. Do you think she wears the trousers and dominates the bits off him?
Yeah, that's that there, down the bottom there.
Oh.
She goes down and hides, that little girl. My heart goes out to her. What happened to your child when your mother covers your eyes when you're anywhere? You're not allowed for people to see your eyes. Well, by the time you're 4 and 6, you think, what is she doing? And that's really, to me, what absolutely upsets me terribly.
What, you think she's more interested in her public persona than looking after her kids?
Much more. As you see, she's got so many nannies. She's got 3 nannies. She's applied for another one, and her nannies are 3 a day. And it's just, she wouldn't spend time, with children who can be quite... There we are. There she is, under the table.
It's quite sad. Yeah, sorry, I'm just recovering, Angela, from my producer saying, Amir, that'd be dangerous for you having 3 nannies. He's implying because I married my nanny, but that's another story. Angela, do you think Prince Harry lives in fear of Meghan Markle, genuinely, in the household?
Genuinely, he's terrified of her because he wants to make her happy. He wants to please her. But unfortunately, she's one of these people whose nothing is ever enough. That's why her mother walked away. She was just fed up with her moaning. That's what it was.
Has her own mother walked away now?
Oh yes, her mother used to live with them, and now she doesn't because she got so fed up with her daughter moaning. Now she's never got enough. She's never got enough with money. She's never got enough with enough room.
I'm having terrible flashbacks here without going into detail. Go on, Karen.
Your own life.
Keep talking. I'm going to read you. Keep talking, Angela. I'm going to find you something. Go on, keep talking.
Okay. So yes, she's just somebody who's never satisfied. I mean, do you think what she had? She was with the royal family. It's a delightful royal family. They're not awful. I know for a fact that the then Prince Charles really liked her. He thought she liked lots of things that he did, like theatre and music and all those things. And Camilla tried to be very nice, made a big meal for them with all the things that she knew that she would like. She doesn't speak. She's too beyond everything. And you can never catch up with it, you see. So Harry doesn't know what to do. Whatever she would do, but she's that sort of woman.
I'm going to jump in. I've got 1 minute. I won't tell you why I've got this, but this is from the... This is from the health, this is from the NHS. It's a narcissist checklist. And apparently, if you have 5 of these, you can be deemed a narcissist. Why would I have this? Two-faced, putting friends and family down behind their backs, a tendency to blame their lack of success and failures on others, acts differently in public than in private, irresponsible and unreliable, arrogant, acts superior to people, lives in a fantasy world, will lie and distort facts and change events, is irresponsible with money, is emotionally distant, lacks sympathy, can be controlling, provokes people and has trouble admitting their mistakes. I would say that Meghan Markle is absolutely a narcissist.
But I protect myself on that one. That I'm not a doctor, and so it sounds very similar to some things that she is, but I wouldn't actually say anything
So
about.
can we gather from this that you won't be flying to Australia to meet her at this wellness clinic in wherever it is? No?
Well, originally there were supposed to be 300 women gathering together, but the hotel's not finished, which is rather a joke. Careful.
Got a mouthful of tea. What are you doing to me? What are you doing? The hotel's not finished.
And some of the hotels have only got one sort of bedroom, one bed, because it's sort of a double. But the people are going don't know each other, so a lot of them might have to share a bed with someone.
Oh my God! But you're not. Can we just get a confirmation? Are you going to meet Meghan and pay 1,700 quid, or would you rather eat your own feet?
I'll find something else
to eat. I love you. I love you at any time of the day, but at 6:45 in the morning, you're a dream. Thank you, the amazing Angela Levin. Of course, royal biographer, and probably feels exactly the same. Do you feel the same about Meghan Markle, the rest of us do? It's odious.
Yeah, of course I do. And I think, look, Angela was touched on everything there. You know, what Prince Charles did, as he was at the time, you know, for Meghan, to walk her down the aisle, don't forget, at their own wedding, because she'd sort of fallen out with her dad and had the problems there. He stepped in. And then after an act of kindness like that to sort of save the day, they then decide to leave the royal family. She goes and does an Oprah Winfrey interview, sells all the, well, not truths, it was all lies, in my view, to Oprah to make a bit of cash, to say that they want a private life, that they don't want the media scrutiny, that they've been harassed and harangued by the media, and therefore it's all their fault, that's why they've been driven.
But then you sell yourself to Spotify.
Then you sell yourself to Spotify, and also retain, you know, you don't want anything to do with the royal family, but yet you want to retain the title of
Only so
Duchess.
you can then slag off the very thing, because that allows you to put food on the... It's incomprehensible to me. Can I just very quickly, I haven't got long, this is an amazing story. Morgan McSweeney was of course Keir Starmer's chief of staff until a couple of months ago. He had his phone nicked. Have you read this story? Police did not investigate the theft of Morgan McSweeney's phone because they took down the wrong address and were too busy to speak to him, despite it having the Prime Minister's phone number on and, wink wink, WhatsApp messages and texts between McSweeney and Lord Mandelson. I don't want to be conspiratorial, but that's slightly bloody convenient, isn't it?
Well, first of all, if you've had your mobile phone stolen in London, welcome to Sadiq Khan's city. You know, Labour
and you
Mayor.
Won't find him in Golders Green.
No, exactly.
No.
London Labour Mayor crime up. You know, so they know what it's like. But also, look, you know, this week we entered the 6th year since lockdown of COVID, and during COVID there were all kinds of text messages that the inquiry sort of drew out that were completely wrong, that were completely disgusting between advisors. That was given to the inquiry. Those text messages were there plain to be seen. How has government not learned since then to have messages in relation to government, if you are the chief of staff to the Prime Minister, should be backed up, regardless of whether it was a device, a personal device, whether it has been stolen, whether it's not. We don't know. Whether it's the Wagatha Christie, where all of a sudden, you know, was it Rebecca Vardy's phone suddenly just appeared
Bottom of the ocean.
Bottom of the ocean.
Yes.
You know, this is... People will look to a conspiracy theory, you know, because at the end of the day, the Prime Minister appointed Peter Mandelson, had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We knew that, but that appointment went ahead because people like Morgan McSweeney and the Prime Minister's former Director of Strategy, Matthew Doyle, were very cosy with Peter Mandelson. They knew him, but they were the ones that did the vetting. They effectively then recommended to the Prime Minister that he should go ahead with the appointment. We need to see that information, but apparently it doesn't exist.
Can I just say that when you've been up all night, I think I prefer you. Very feisty of a morning.
Well, you bring me
Are you
on.
going home to bed now whilst I continue at the grindstone?
I'll have a little nap, but I'll be listening to you in the background, and then I'll be in Sussex for my evening tour that
honest to God,
a few people might have seen.
I've changed you, haven't I? It's getting summer seasons in Bridlington after this. I'll become your warm-up man. The amazing Charlie Roddy, we love you. Thank you very, very, very much for being on. Amazing hour. On the way, Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor. Don't forget Talking Royals, Tom Bauer. That's a massive exclusive. His new book is out tomorrow. We've got him on the show this morning. News at 7. More of your calls and more of your texts. And Isabel Oakeshott next on Talk.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight, when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
Whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, you know, the government warned us not to go to. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp. Do you feel safe for her? No, so that will have to stop. Right. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, you know, my wife walking to work and my sons, you know, walking about. Anything can happen, kind of that nowadays, Nigel, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened, you know.
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
You had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood. What would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got cameras, we've got police drones. It's like a cloud that's come over this community.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back and welcome along. You would Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, you've gone nuts for the stories today, as ever. Thank you for your views on the news of the day. If you want to get in touch, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. You're waking up to so much. You're waking up to our Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who yesterday stood up, as I knew she would, and said, I know oil and gas prices are going to rise, I know that petrol is going to rise, and I know that basically it's going to be very, very hard for all of you. This is because of the Iran-Iraq war. Really? I thought it... Sorry, nothing to do with net zero. Anyway, what she did say, which is brilliantly bad for anybody who's working right now or on their way to work, is, I'm going to make sure that I help those who most need it. Those on benefits. Not you, no, not hard-working Brits. No, you just carry on, you jams, just about managing. You go to work and pay your taxes and you struggle, because if you're an illegal migrant or you're the feckless who don't want to work, in brackets, I am not having a go at the people who do want to work and are actually genuinely in need, who I'm happy to help. I'm talking about the people that are too lazy and that the state has been wiping the backside of for too long. Loads of response to that. You're responding as well to Sadiq Khan. Hasn't been to visit Golders Green, where those amethysts were set fire to. Absolutely outrageous. And Ed Balls on Good Morning Britain yesterday basically saying to a survivor, a great-grandson of a Holocaust survivor, don't you think sort of comments about Muslims like Nick Timothy's the other day rather sort of, you know, caused this? No, anti-Semitism is on the rise, Ed Balls. You should be able to say it, but no, you're not. You're married to a Labour MP who might lose her seat. So much going on. If you want to get in touch with this show, I'll give you a little idea. This has happened in the last hour. Busy, busy morning. Have a listen.
Yeah, good morning, Jeremy. It's Mark in Lancashire.
Good morning, Jezza. Matt in a very wet, windy Warrington loading the van.
Morning, Jezza. Shane here in Bournemouth.
Morning, Jezza. It's Wine from Erdington in Birmingham.
Good morning, Jez. Anna, sorry.
Morning, Jezza. Sean of Cheshire.
Alarm clock Britain, let's wake up. Get your fat, lazy asses out to work, earn your money, support your family, and do what's right.
I think that speaks for most of us. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87 True. Also, throughout the show this morning, the brilliant top royal biographer Tom Bower, who has already elicited quite a response from Harry and Meghan, joins us exclusively to talk about his new book. It's out tomorrow. It's called Betrayal: Power, Deceit and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family. One of the things that's really caused everybody to kick off, Camilla just said, I think Harry is being brainwashed by that American actress. Have a little look. Have a listen. Camilla said, and I quote about Harry and Meghan, she's been brainwashing him. They have kicked back already, Tom, ahead of publication. Harry and Meghan saying that this is deranged conspiracy, my friend. How do you answer that?
I'm not surprised. I mean, for them, it is... Any criticism is always poisonous and damaging, and particularly from me. But I can assure you it's very well sourced from the person who heard it from the Queen's mouth.
Can't wait to have that played to you, a part this hour and a part the next hour. Tom Bower, let's say a very good morning to Talk's international editor. I love this lady at whatever time of the day. Isabel Oakeshott, welcome to breakfast.
Good morning.
Oh, different lighting today. You're looking...
Well,
it's all... You're not on the carpet today?
Unfortunately, I had to lose the pasta box prop because the kids ate the pasta. So I've got a new construct today. We've got 2 boxes of Lurpak, and I'm giving you a slightly more interesting background, and I'm not sitting on the carpet.
Brilliant, great. Talk about a professional. By the way, I should break some news to you, Isabel. Everything's fine. Rachel Reeves can celebrate this morning because inflation has stayed unchanged at 3%. So I mean, let's start with Rachel Reeves because we talk about everything, you and I. This woman who, in my mind, is utterly incompetent and not up to this job at all, stands up yesterday sort of in response to what most families would expect is going to happen in this country, you know, oil prices, gas prices, petrol prices, food prices, and acknowledges this is happening, but does what all Labour politicians do, blames the Tory party, despite the fact this government's been in for 2 years, and then takes aim at what she calls the rich people, who she's not going to help. She's going to help those on benefits. And my big issue today, and it has absolutely gone mad, is that anybody who goes to work, the alarm clock Brit, you know, pays tax, lives their lives correctly, is going to yet again be screwed by this government whose benefits bill hits over £400 billion a year. This woman is toast and Starmer's toast, but I have to tell you, the level of anger amongst alarm clock working Brits this morning is off the scale, Isabel, and you'd understand why, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Rachel Reeves has spectacularly failed on all the missions that she set herself. So she came into this job for which she claimed to be qualified, and we later discovered that she was not Rachel, the economist from the Bank of England, but Rachel from accounts or the complaints department, of which we've all got plenty. And her mission, as she put it herself, was growth, growth, growth. She was going to get the economy growing. She's also supposed to be bringing inflation down to the target level of 2%. Well, the latest figures out today show inflation at 3%, so that is well ahead of target. I think we can all feel it. You know, I'm not in the UK all the time. I'm in the UK very regularly, about once a month. And whenever I go into a supermarket, prices seem to have rocketed again. That doesn't happen in all other countries, folks, and it doesn't need to happen. It's happening because something is off kilter with our economy. And we know that the latest growth figures were no growth whatsoever, zero, zilch, nada. Absolute spectacular fail. And all of this is about to come to a real head as the pressures on energy kind of bubble over because of the Middle East crisis. And we know what the strategy is going to be from this Chancellor and this Prime Minister. They will blame any further economic woes that the UK is facing on the situation in the Middle East, as if they have nothing to do with it whatsoever. But let's remember where we were before all of this started. She was failing, he was failing, the economy was tanking.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it's really important to call it out, and I'll do it even if I'm told not to. It is absolutely fundamentally right to say, and I am in no way supporting the Tories, the economy is on its backside. There is no growth. If you increase NI on small businesses and improve workers' rights and do all that they've done, they have stifled and choked small businesses. There is no growth. There is increasing cost on every level. Food, as you said, energy, everything. You can no longer, Rachel Thieves, get away with blaming the ex-government. You can no longer, because we had it proved when they said, do you remember that thing on X some weeks ago when he went, under this government, energy bills have come down, and there was a community note, which is basically when X is saying you're lying within about 10 seconds, that said, hold on, mate. They're higher now than when you came to power. The British public, I believe, are too intelligent to swallow this BS. This is not about the war in Iran. This is about complete incompetent government. Let's bring it back to what it is, which is a government that will do anything to financially bail out those who put absolutely zilch into the coffers, be that illegal migrants, be that the feckless. And I always make the point about the genuine people, and I know you'd agree with me. I'm very happy to work for those. But there is a real sense in this country, Isabella, people are fed up to the back teeth with doing everything correctly to be screwed, basically, by people who do nothing. Really believe that.
I just don't know how much more hardworking people can take. They are fed up of being told that they have got to shoulder just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. And, you know, we know about the people at the top end. They are also absolutely fed up of being told that they've got the broadest shoulders. They feel like Atlas carrying the weight of the world on the shoulders. And many of them, as we all know, have left. But it is those that can't. Not everyone has the luxury of leaving. It's hard to leave.
It's her description of middle-class Britain as rich that really winds me up. There are plenty of hard-working middle-class, working middle-class, I hate all those bloody labels anyway, who go to work, Isabel, the jams, just about managing, and pay their taxes and live within the confines of the law, who are so squeezed and they're always the target. They're not rich, Rachel Reeves, at all. And you will punish them again and again and again. And it's not fair. It's just not fair.
The balance has got so out of kilter, hasn't it? I sort of picture this seesaw with the hardworking people, you know, flat on the ground, and benefits Britain high up in the air and constantly being lifted higher and maintained up at that level by a shrinking number of people that are carrying an ever greater load. And there comes a breaking point, doesn't there? I know that breaking point would be tomorrow if people had the option to vote out this government. People absolutely hate them. You know, even people that want to vote Labour, that believe in whatever Labour's values used to be, cannot stand this administration. And they just, every day they wonder what they're doing, grafting away, knowing the absolute scandalous squandering of the money, the portion of their wages, which is ever greater, that goes to the public coffers. And it is for daft schemes and waste. Day in, day out, every minute of the day, literally millions of pounds of our money is being poured down the drain.
Couldn't agree more. Can I just talk to you about Trump quickly? You obviously are international editor. We've talked about this. I mean, look, everybody knows my views on the mad mullahs of Tehran, and everybody knows that these horrible people have financed terrorism, proxy groups for years, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, ISIS, whatever. Everybody knows that there was this threat of nuclear involvement. Is he losing the plot, Trump, or is he doing what he usually does, which is looking like he's using the Trump, but he's losing the plot and he's coming up with a masterstroke? Because to all intents and purposes, if you watch, I mean, I know he's very tired. I mean, I don't know, the rhetoric has changed somewhat.
I think there's a lot of concern in the Middle East that Trump is now looking for a way out pretty much at any cost. You know, there's a huge amount of rhetoric here about, the Iranians want to make a deal, they're desperate to make a deal, we've achieved our objectives. I don't think any of that is true. I'm afraid it's looking as if Tehran has somewhat the upper hand at this point, and that is devastating for the region. The whole thing has been so destabilizing for the whole wider region and the delicate relationships between the Gulf countries. And I support what Trump was trying to do. But as we read today in a number of papers, the Saudi leadership privately is urging the Trump administration to finish the job, because the worst thing of all would be to, in a phony kind of way, declare that this has been a success and then sort of walk away, leaving a vengeful and much weakened and even more dangerous remnant of that absolutely murderous, monstrous Iranian regime. That is what I fear may well happen now, because too late, Trump has realized that the Straits of Hormuz are basically so pivotal to the whole of the world's trade. And the Iranian regime, or what's left of it, is able to take the world hostage with this.
Couldn't agree more. And I think not only that, but I think that without being accused of being conspiratorial, there's undoubtedly Russian involvement in terms of Iran. And whether he's overplayed his hand, I think we all agree with the premise that this revolting regime should go. But of course he was very vocal. This will be from the air, there won't be boots on the land, etc., etc. And we're now going around in circles. It's definitely a tinderbox. 7:15. I just want to throw one thing at you before you go. You go from being annoyed to very annoyed with this. Sadiq Khan, this morning being criticised, hasn't even been to the scene of where those 4 ambulances, Hezbollah voluntary ambulances for the Jewish community, was set fire to in that appalling anti-Semitism example on Monday. Just want to talk to you about Ed Balls on GMB. Did you see that yesterday?
I'm aware of it and heard you playing the clip this morning as well.
So basically says to the great-grandson, who's going to be on this show later, Dov Foreman, the great-grandson of a Holocaust survivor, do you think that Nick Timothy's comments and, this anti-Muslim rhetoric that seems to be hyped up by so many of you now on the right is responsible for this? How disrespectful is that? Why do we not have a government that can't put aside its fear of losing seats to the Muslim whatever groups and actually stand up for the Jewish community in my country? Because on a daily basis I'm getting more and more embarrassed by it.
It's just awful. I'm not really into offence culture, and I sort of want to defend the rights of broadcasters and columnists and anyone to throw anything out there, really, and we can all push back on it. So I'm not going to say that Ed Balls was outrageous or that I'm offended by it. I'm just going to say that I don't see the parallel there. I don't see the link he was trying to make. I don't think it's the right link. He seems to be trying to suggest that because Nick Timothy, a Conservative MP, questioned whether or not there should be performative praying by large groups of Muslim men in the centre of our capital city, that somehow might have been a trigger for criminals and arsonists to set fire to charity ambulances.
My reason I gave you the example was, and I agree with you, and I agree with your sentiment about people being able to do anything. I'm absolutely for free speech. But to me, that shows an underlying... He's married to the Foreign Secretary and used to be a Labour MP. That undermines... That completely shows me that there is a complete disregard for the Jewish community, and there's an absolutely pro-view about the Muslim community amongst Labour officials. I genuinely, I can't get away from that. I think he showed his true colours.
Without a doubt. I mean, in that line of questioning, Ed Balls runs the risk of looking like an apologist for those types of heinous attacks on our Jewish community.
Couldn't agree more. Listen, thank you. You just, honestly, you're like the most unbelievably consistent, regular person. We love you being on. Thank you so much indeed. A much better lighting today. Isabel Oakeshott on Talk Breakfast. We love her. 7:15. We're live across the UK. James, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. This government is unbelievable. Working people suffer once again. This is quite unbelievable. When I get home from work about 8 o'clock tonight, I will be able to sleep comfortably knowing that my money will be going to an illegal immigrant, probably smoking the green and just getting up to no good, can't be asked to work. like I said before, Jeremy, I've got no problem working all day. If I'm going to be, my money's be going to an ex-war veteran or an old age pensioner that's worked all their life, not a problem. I will work all day for them. I will not be working all day for these illegal immigrants. No chance. Thanks very much, Jezza.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the show. So many people to cram in between now and 10 o'clock. Tom Bauer, that new book, don't forget, Betrayal, Power, Deceit, The Fight for the Future of the Royal Family, an exclusive on this show in the next 2 hours. Sarah Pochin at 8 o'clock. Right now, let's go to the ex-deputy leader, Speaker of the House of Commons, my mate. Love him. Good morning, Nigel Evans. Where are you?
Morning. I'm in Bromley. I'm back in the UK.
Well, and he's got a tie on, and he's in front of all the books that he hasn't written. Nige, I'm just going to throw loads at you today. Time is of an essence as ever, but Rachel Thieves, I judge this show genuinely on hard-working alarm clock Brits, and I judge it on response. And the outpouring of anger this morning is palpable. Basically, she stood up yesterday and did what all Labour politicians seem to do, which still blame the Tory government. There are undoubted problems from there, but you've been in the job 2 years. She's still talking about trust. In essence, what really gets the goat, I think, of so many of my listeners this morning, Nigel, is that she's basically saying, listen, petrol's going to go up, gas is going to go up, oil's going to go up, food's going to go up, and it's all because of Liz Truss and the Iran war. No, goes further then and says everybody who's rich and middle class, ridiculous analogy, is going to have to make sure that they stand up and do their own thing because I'm going to help those on benefits. I take exception on so many levels. I take exception for what I call jams, just about managing. Those people are not rich. They're lower working middle class people who are just doing the right thing and trying to live their lives correctly. They're going to be screwed again with more tax increases. And then I do take exception about the fake list because I'm sick and tired of not having the truthful comment. There are probably 2 million people in this country I am more than happy to pay all my tax for. Genuinely, they're disabled, they cannot work, they have major problems, and I think it's brilliant that we as a society do that. But you know what, Nigel, unless we face up to the truth, there's millions of people sat on their backsides, having them wiped by the state to the detriment of hard-working Brits. I think we're in trouble. I genuinely feel that so strongly.
Yeah, you've got a ton of your viewers who will be watching this show just about to get into their cars or to travel to work. You've just had one on now, James, I think his name was, who'll be working till 8 o'clock tonight. And yet you've got, I think the figure is 6 million people now who are on some form of benefit. The benefits bill is over £400 billion every year. The interest that the government is now paying is well over £100 billion. Last month, Rachel Reeves borrowed £14 billion, of which 13.5 billion went on paying interest on the amount of money that we're borrowing. It's totally unsustainable. And yet she came to the House of Commons yesterday and basically said, I'm going to help those who are already on benefits, and the rest of you just better lap it up. And it's just unsustainable. People have had enough. And it's not as if there are things that she could not do. For instance, we are sitting on oil and gas reserves in the North Sea. Norway are basically drilling and pumping as much as they possibly can, and we're importing it from them. It doesn't take Einstein to work out what we need to do. She needs to push Miliband to one side with his zealotry on net zero and make sure, perhaps, that we could have net zero imports of oil and gas when we can drill our own.
Mate, I must be you and me and every other person that listens and everybody in this office that's wrong, because we have a government that palpably cannot see that they have an asset and a resource that they can utilise to pay off those debts, make the lives of people in this country better. But no, they don't do that, as they chase this crazy ideology whilst raising taxes on the very part of this country that's the backbone of this country. And for all the people who can say, oh, you don't care, I care very much about the people who can't work and have problems. And I'll keep saying it so you can't throw it back at me. But I'm sick to death of... I saw something with Thatcher the other day. You know, people should be able to make their own decisions, make their own mistakes. It's not for the state to constantly do it for them. She was dead right. We're living now in a world where... And what makes it more warped is this government wants the state to control and do everything. And people have taken that and now have lost not even just a sense of identity, a sense of wanting to do work. Every choice they make is directed in the wrong way to me, Nigel. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And during the last election, we were promised growth, and all the policies that she's brought in since then has been counter to growth, put extra costs, not just energy costs on businesses. We've got some of the highest energy prices anywhere in the world, but also you had the national minimum wage going up, you had national insurance on employers going up. All of this means that unemployment has gone up every month since this government took control. And yet today, what have we got now? We're going to have Prime Minister's questions with Kemi Badenoch.
Can we rename that Prime Minister's not going to answer any question?
That's right. Well, I was with Kemi last night in London, where she gave a speech to a ton of current MPs and former members of Parliament from the 1922 committee. And she basically said exactly what we're expecting is that we'll get yet another dose from Keir Starmer of mentioning Liz Truss again. She was only in power for 49 days. And yet Rachel Reeves has been Chancellor of the Exchequer for 430 days, I think the figure is. And so it's time for them to move on and to take responsibility for where we are. Inflation is at 3%. Today, these figures have just come out, and yet the expectation is it's going to go up because of the war in Iran and the petrol and energy spikes that is going to follow on from that. And we're now sitting expecting another 2 interest rate rises, Jeremy, which is going to hit Middle Britain again, alarm clock Britain, these people going to work. It's extra pressures on them, and yet the people who are being cosseted and looked after are those who are on benefits, as you say, some of them absolutely legitimately, but the figure has absolutely mushroomed since this government took over. Not everybody on benefits clearly is ill. We used to be called the sick man of Europe. Well, we've got a lot of sick men within Europe, all living in the United Kingdom and on benefits. It's unsustainable and unimaginable that level can carry on in the future.
Mate, we haven't got much time. I just want to ask you one other story. The other big news today. Sadiq Khan criticised quite rightly for not visiting that site of where those 4 Jewish Hezbollah ambulances were set fire to so appallingly. Anti-Semitism. We don't need to get into a huge debate about the Labour Party, but the truth of the matter is I fail to understand. You're a politician with massive experience. Why do we live now in a country where the same approach should always be any form of racism is abhorrent, but seemingly if you're a white Jewish person, you're treated with not the same regard as other ethnicities and religions and castes and creed. Why is anti-Semitism allowed to continue in such a way? Why are hate marches with Israeli flags being set fire to allowed? Why are we in this? Is it simply a government that's terrified of losing the Muslim vote? Because I think it is a disgusting, vile way to treat the Jewish community in this country, and I'll continue to say it.
Yeah, no, that's clearly where we are. I talked to Nick Timothy yesterday, by the way, at the same event, and said that he'd got it absolutely right, as has Kemi, on this particular issue. And there can be no justification for the firebombing of 4 Jewish ambulances. It's full stop, that's it. It's pointless getting somebody like Ed Balls, who's married to Yvette Cooper, asking questions of somebody to say, well, I wonder why this happened. Is it possibly that Nick Timothy's comments contributed towards this? Absolutely not. The fact is that there is anti-Semitism there. There is a group of people out there where Jews are the problem. Whatever the issue is, Jews are the problem. And so it's pointless trying to paint anything other than that. And Sadiq Khan, quite frankly, it's shameful that he didn't get on the tube, get down there and talk to the Jewish community there. They're very much part of the United Kingdom, and they should never be allowed to be singled out in the way that they are.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, I went on that Nick Timothy, Ed Balls thing earlier, and people were saying, well, yeah, he is married to Yvette Cooper, and I think that the Labour Party, there are still massive traces of anti-Semitism. Do you think Ed Balls showed himself to be biased yesterday?
Well, I think the question was stupid, and I read a lot of social media following his questioning, and people scratching their heads, saying, I'm sorry, why did you think that question was a sensible or appropriate question to ask a Jewish person? The fact is that anti-Semitism has been a part of the United Kingdom, sadly and tragically, for decades. It still exists to this day, even though Keir Starmer said that he would get rid of it in the United Kingdom and get rid of it within the Labour Party. Well, clearly that just simply isn't happening, and it's not enough. And Sadiq Khan is an example of that by the fact that he hasn't gone down there to talk to the Jewish community.
Mate, we love having you on the show. You're an absolute miss. You should get back in Parliament. You carry on with that book, and don't forget me in chapter 27. Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons in Bromley, back in the UK. Let's cross to Westminster. Delighted to have this guest. Good mate. Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor Exchequer. Has he got a coat on? Oh, look at the poor bugger. It's windy this morning. How are you, Mel?
I'm very well, but you've warmed me up, so I'm fine. Thank you, Jeremy.
I don't want to give you the impression, Mel, that I am angry every single day, but I have to say your counterpart yesterday has caused a reaction on this station that I have not seen for a while. I cannot believe 2 things. One is to have the brass neck to blame the Iran war on increasing energy prices, increasing food prices, increasing oil prices, to blame it on that and Liz Truss and not be able to say we've messed up. We've spent too much on welfare, 407 billion, which we haven't cut at all. We've basically messed it up. But to then, and this is the point, Mel, this is what it's all about, to have the audacity to label what I've called on this show Alarm Clock Brits as rich middle-class people is so utterly irresponsible and disgusting. Because, yeah, you want to support the people on benefits. Personally, I think half of them should get off their backsides and work. I think we need to deal with that and have that conversation. But all I've heard from Mel all morning is people getting in their vans and their cars or coming back from a night shift, what I call jams, just about managing, saying, how dare she keep making us feel like we do everything correctly and we're at the back of the queue. There's real anger about it this morning, my friend.
Yeah, I think then that's absolutely right. And your point just at the start of what you were saying there, Jeremy, is absolutely on the money. She blames everybody else but herself. That's the problem. We saw that again yesterday in the Commons. Look, we've got inflation numbers out this morning which show that inflation has not been going down. Nothing to do with the war in Iran. We had the highest level of inflation last year in the G7, and the IMF says we'll have the highest level in the G7 this year. And that's down to what the government's done. It's taxed a lot of these hard-working people and businesses almost out of existence. Some of that's been passed on by way of higher prices, borrowed a lot of money, spent a lot of money, stoked inflation that way too. And you know what? There is something the government could be doing straight away to make things a lot easier, and that is getting these carbon taxes and these green subsidies off the backs of people paying these bills. It would reduce their bills by 20% virtually overnight. They should be scrapping the fuel duty increase plan for September, so get the price at the pumps more under control. And of course, we've got all that oil and gas up in the North Sea that is not being exploited because of Ed Miliband's net zero madness. At the same time as we're importing a lot of it from Norway and other countries. So things that the government could do immediately if they just accepted the reality of the situation we're in and got on with it.
It's a really interesting phrase, actually, the reality of the situation, because if you do this and you're involved, we're all involved, if you do this as closely as I do, I don't understand, if I tried to scratch beneath the surface, the Reeves, Starmer, Miliband approach. They are cutting their own throats. They will never be re-elected. The British people, the silent majority, we've talked about the Tories repeatedly, I'm talking now about this government, the silent majority have made their mind up, and that isn't right-wing rhetoric, it's common sense, Mel. You cannot say repeatedly to what I call the backbone of this country, I'm just going to tax you. I'm going to make sure that people who come here illegally get more than you. I'm going to make sure the feckless get more than you. I'm going to make sure that everybody is better off than the very people I want working to pay tax to sustain my society. Thatcher was right. That's not what you do. That's not how you create growth. And that is not, and I'm not even talking growth, I'm talking about how people feel. I've never experienced the anger that we are feeling on a daily basis. Even, and the Tories, listen, people stop listening, we've done that. But the anger towards this incompetent government is out of control, Mel.
Yeah. Look, the big mistake here, Jeremy, that the government is making is that it's constantly leaning into taxing people more and borrowing more, which has created a weak economy. What they need to do is control public spending, particularly the welfare budget. They've got to get people off benefits and into work. And if you do that, then you can start to get taxes down, you can start to get businesses growing, you can start to get businesses profitable, and through time, of course, they'll pay maybe even more tax as a consequence, and you can get a better and stronger economy. But they've made all the wrong choices here, and that's why whatever Rachel Reeves comes forward with, we don't know yet because we didn't learn anything yesterday, whatever she comes forward with, I'll almost guarantee you she's going to borrow more money, which will make the economy weaker, or she's going to lean into yet more tax increases, and that is the wrong set of choices, and that's why people are really suffering.
Absolutely. And just quickly, so you're the next Chancellor, right? This is me, man to man. This is what I don't get. Even if I had an ideology and I knew my neck was on the line, I'd think about, you know, changing tact. Even Trump's showing the signs of doing that. You're Chancellor, and I'm saying to you, we've got a £400 billion welfare thingy, and it's costing us £10 billion a month. But you know what, Mel? I can give you 800 billion if we just drill in the North Sea. You're going to go, absolutely. They are bankrupting the country on an ideology that doesn't fiscally work. It makes no sense.
No, absolutely no sense whatsoever. So take the oil. We've got two fields out there that you could flick the switch on and give them the go-ahead. That's Rosebank for oil and Jackdaw for gas, where we could be getting the oil and gas out of those fields within literally a matter of months. Now, the Jackdaw gas field could power 1.6 million homes. And yet, the way that Miliband approaches things, of course, is he wants to not have those things happen. He wants to effectively shut down the North Sea. Now, the supreme irony is that we're getting a lot of our gas actually from the Norwegians via a connector, where they are actually taking the gas out of the same seabed, the same basin, as we are not exploiting. It is ludicrous. It's costing jobs, it's costing tax revenue, it's meaning more pressure on our public finances, it's damaging our balance of payments, it's making our imports more expensive overall because of that particular effect as well. So, you know, this is just basic common sense, and it's extraordinary that this kind of ideology has now got in the way of common sense.
Listen, just final question, brilliant. Do you in the Tory party, do you sit there sometimes open-mouthed thinking this is just pennies from heaven, these people are completely and utterly incompetent?
Yeah, what I think, sadly, Jeremy, is we've seen it all before. We know what Labour governments do. They typically go out, tax everybody. They don't understand business. There's very little business experience on the Labour benches. They always go and borrow loads of money and spend and spend and spend until they run out of other people's money, and they always see unemployment, for example, rising. That's happened under every single Labour government in history. It's now, unemployment's now at a 10-year high, incidentally, and rising. We've seen it all before. It's very sad. And bring on the next general election.
Mate, great to have you on, braving the elements and proving what a top man he is. Mel Stride, thank you so much indeed. Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, right, 22-8, I promised you this. Tom Bower, royal biographer, some would say quite outspoken. I think he's brilliant. Has a new book out tomorrow, the 26th. It's called, the 26th? The 26th. It's called Betrayal, Power, Deceit and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family. I sat down with him after the show yesterday morning. We're going to split this interview into two parts. It's fascinating. He tells me that Camilla has always believed that Meghan brainwashed Harry. Have a listen, have a watch. Tom Bower, welcome to The Breakfast Show. This week, a huge week for you, my friend. 26, the book's out. Betrayal, Power, Deceit and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family. And the reason there's so much talk about this book is this claim of yours, this astonishing statement said to be made by Queen Camilla to a friend, this is in the book, that Camilla said, and I quote about Harry and Meghan, she's been brainwashing him. They have kicked back already, Tom, ahead of publication, Harry and Meghan saying that this is deranged conspiracy, my friend. How do you answer that?
Well, I'm firstly grateful to them because it pushed the book up to #1 on Amazon. And secondly, I'm not surprised. I mean, for them, it is any criticism is always poisonous and damaging, and particularly from me. But I can assure you it's very well sourced from the person who heard it from the Queen's mouth. And it's true. I mean, that's the point. It is actually, unfortunately, true at the time.
I remember starting at Talk many moons ago, it seems now, and somebody asking me about what my view of their relationship was, and I rather unceremoniously used the phrase, and I can only use the second word, which is whipped. I've always believed that this kid who fought in the army and seemed to be very stuck on the royal family, and whatever we say about Spare, was taken by this woman who had undoubtedly a motive. I don't care what anybody says about that. And what he's turned into is a sad sort of indictment. That you also allege in the book that a supposedly conciliatory tea-time meeting between Harry and his brother Prince William culminated in Meghan snapping at William and saying, "Get your finger out of my face." It says, you say, and I've long thought this, that William harboured doubts about Meghan long before the engagement.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, it started very much long before the wedding, that a member of the establishment, which I describe in the book, a very famous person, was trying to help Meghan understand the chores and duties and responsibilities of being a member of the royal family, and reported back to the palace that Meghan was going to be trouble, that she had no intention of falling into line. And of course, she created the grievances which Harry then exaggerated and perpetuated, which led to their departure.
It's never been the royal family has its flaws. You'll know that if you cut me in half, I'm a royalist as you are. But I know that Kate and William, I remember, you'll have seen all the footage, they were really close as a three-ball, weren't they, as I call it in golf. He was very close to Kate. They would do things together and they looked out for him. And you make a point in the book that I think a lot of people would agree with. You say that they believed that this kid, and that's what he was, who had struggled following the death of his mother, and who wouldn't? I mean, unbelievable in the public eye. We know he'd battled issues with drink and drugs and his mental health. And it's almost the insinuation that this woman, Tom, knew exactly that this kid was vulnerable. And I can't disagree with you on that.
She undoubtedly manipulated him and used and exploited his weaknesses. But you've got to put the other side of this, that he, on the other hand, couldn't find an English woman who wanted to live with him. I mean, they all fled because of his depressions and paranoia. And here is a woman, Meghan, who was his safety net and provided what he thought would be the mollycoddling and the love and security he was desperately looking for. And so it seemed at the beginning. But of course, since then, we've seen how she has completely exploited her position and become a global star at the expense of the royal family and of Britain.
And that's the point, isn't it? It's almost as if this is what I take from your book, is that she sort of set out to snare him, aware that he was probably vulnerable. But then once in that confine of the royal family, we heard she didn't like this, she didn't agree with that. Do you think a lot of that was because she suddenly realised how limited his role actually was, and so pushed him? And the result, the Oprah Winfrey interview, the book Spare, him talking about all those things that made him so unhappy that nobody had heard about before, Tom, before she came along?
Absolutely. I mean, it's as bad as that and worse. I think that she, in her wedding alone, when she had those all the Hollywood people there she didn't know, was plotting her return. And of course, when I started the book starts in the cusp of their fame 5 years ago, when they had the Netflix series, his book, the As Ever series, the Netflix series, everything. They thought they were going to be absolutely riding high, but the book chronicles their decline and their now desperation for money and for revalidation as royals. And they're in a very bad situation. And the book describes, I think, in gripping detail, how that descent has occurred.
It's quite interesting as well, if you do what I do. I lived in Windsor, as you know, and I remember the wedding distinctly. And at that point, my old man was alive, who worked for the Queen Mother. And I remember him saying, this isn't going to end well. And I remember going, why? And he said, just a feeling in my water. Obviously difficult. You look at William, and nobody would ever have thought that he could marry what was perceived as a commoner, Kate Middleton, who I think Iron Kate is a great description. I think she and he will save the monarchy. And you can tell with her reservations. And it was painted as she was sort of jealous of the attention. I don't think it was that at all. I think she had a real brotherly, she had a sort of sisterly brotherly relationship with Harry, which was sort of taken away. And he's turned into this human being who became this sort of angry, bitter, revengeful human being who now, Tom, wherever they are or wherever they're going to stay, I don't even understand what his purpose is. And it wouldn't be an over-exaggeration to say, you know, I used to go on golf trips to America and see her on box 23 for Deal or No Deal in the old days, standing there in a boob tube. I mean, they've gone full circle. The woman's selling jam. Surely their disrespect for the monarchy should end with William or Kate or possibly even our king having the courage to take away their titles and say to them, you didn't want to be part of this and you're not going to trade our name to line your own pockets. You're in or you're out.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely, Jeremy. I agree with you, absolutely. And I think it'll come to it. I think Harry has behaved treacherously towards the family and to Britain in his book. And I think that he's been absolutely shocked that Andrew had his title stripped from him. He thought that could never happen. And now, of course, he knows that William and Kate won't forgive him. And if he steps out of line yet again, he faces the danger of losing his titles just like Andrew.
I mean, I would go further with you. We've always talked very openly. I believe that this sudden cozying up to King Charles, who we know has been ill in the last few months, is because he absolutely knows what's coming further down the line with William and Kate, who I believe will go, you've shoddily used our family name that you trash the whole time and don't want to be part of, to basically, well, attack us and monetize your own lives, and that can't continue. I remember when I grudgingly sort of had an admiration, Tom, that they went to California and said, I don't want anything to do with this. And I thought, well, no, fair play to you. But if you say that and then you land and you sign a $112 million deal with Spotify to just basically talk about all the secrets of the institution you're so against, you're not going to have any credence, neither in the family or publicly. Have you been amazed at how the public have turned against them as completely as they have?
Well, I'm not, because I thought eventually the public sees the truth.
Yeah.
I think that what has been remarkable is it's taken so long, and that Meghan, on the whole, has concealed all the hurt that she has undoubtedly suffered and all the hysterics. I mean, she really is pretty resilient. She just, when she's attacked, and that's increasingly now, she just disappears to recover and reappears looking terrific and smiling. But inside the house in Montecito, of course, there is great anguish and great fears of what could now happen. And that's why she's rushing down to Australia next month to sell herself again in a different way to a health farm, £1,700 a shot.
It's to meet Meghan. I mean, you think we're old-fashioned, you and I. You think about what the monarchy was and you think about what she now is, and you just think there's no time for that. Do you ever see a situation, Tom, in your experience, where he will come back to the United Kingdom?
Oh, I think he desperately does want to come back. I think that's what the whole Invictus Games in Birmingham was all about and is all about. But I think now he's got a huge problem that they're increasingly unpopular. The King can't face him in the way he wants in public. And Birmingham is the worst place to bring the Invictus Games. Harry's plans, plus the protection, which I don't believe he's going to get the way he wants, is going to make it very, very difficult for him to come back to Britain in the way he imagined.
To bring the old man back into it, who's no longer here. I remember him saying to me a couple of days after the wedding, give it 5 years and he will be back in England with his ginger tail between his legs, leaving her in Hollywood with 2 babies, and she will sell the soul of everything to do with what she's known and what she's done, including those kids, to make money. And it's just a really sad way to describe it. And if you cut it down, if you look at this book, I mean, I tell you a story. It's relevant to what you've written. You talked about that tea time sort of conciliatory meeting that went wrong. We lived on the Long Walk for 7 years, Tom. My son was the 5th person to lay a bunch of flowers at the gate the day the Queen died. I was there when I saw those 4. Do you remember the 4 of them walking down out of the car on the Royal Long Walk to look at the flowers? I can tell you, because I was there, that 100 metres behind Harry and Meghan, at that moment, a moment where almost the entire world was encompassed with grief, there was a Netflix crew behind a tree. I don't believe there's anything authentic about those 2 at all. And I think, and this book does it for me, I think they've been found out. I think deceit is a really, really good word, because they have deceived us. But I think the British people have woken to it, pal. I really do.
You know, I think they're now paying the price of betrayal.
Yeah.
That's the reason for the title. They actually betrayed the royal family, they betrayed Britain, and now they're going to pay the price for it.
Do you think they'll lose their titles when William and Kate become King and Queen?
I think it's in balance now. It depends how they behave. If she exploits the royal title in Australia and starts monetising the way that Sarah Ferguson did, I think that's the end for her.
It'll be very interesting to see. I can't see the King stripping him. I think the King is probably iller than people know, and I think he probably would like to do it all peacefully, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, Kev sounding great in the afternoons, 4 till 7, Monday to Friday on Talk. Listen, very quickly, I just want to cross to a very wonderful lady, Orla Minahane, the leader of Pink Ladies. Orla, a very good morning to you. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Morning, how are you?
I'm all right. I haven't got long. I'd love to have more time. I just nearly dropped the newspaper this morning when I read this. Councils are for the first time to receive guidance on how to create streets that are safer for women and girls. This is a Labour initiative. The guidance being finalised is expected to tell councils they need better lighting, CCTV and replace dark underpasses with street-level crossings. I think what the Pink Ladies might, I suspect, say is we know why so many women in this country in certain areas don't feel safe, and that's because this country is allowing criminal men in who are not vetted, who then attack our women. Would that be inaccurate or true?
I think that's probably accurate. So if you are going to say that women, and apparently the stats are that 9 out of 10 women don't feel safe on the streets of this country, if you're going to let in over 63,000 unvetted men since you've been into power, Labour, what do you expect? So, you know, you've got these men coming over, and even if 95% of those men, Jeremy, were decent human beings, that's still nearly 3,000 that aren't. And those men are being put in next to schools, next to shopping centres, in the outskirts of towns, in camps, in HMOs, in hotels. They're wandering around streets. And then you expect and wonder why people aren't feeling safe. It's absolutely outrageous. And in London, in the last 59 days, there's been 1,475 rapes.
It's just beyond me. And I was watching, I'd hate to say, but this lefty woman who has always made sense to me about women's... And somebody said to her, you know, exactly what you've just said. And she said, white men attack women as well. Why are you attacking illegal migrants? But my answer would be that if that exacerbates the problem, then it needs dealing with, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And look, of course white men commit crimes. Of course they do. But if you go back 20 years before this influx of invaders, which is what they are, they're invading the country, before that started, it was the rate statistics were just not even in the same ballpark. So whilst of course white Indigenous men commit sexual offences, of course they do, but it has quadrupled, much more so, and it's happening every day. And then you hear at the weekend about girls 10, 11, 12 who are going into corner shops or mini marts to buy a loaf of bread, to buy some milk, which is the normal thing to do, and they're being dragged upstairs and they're being sexually assaulted. Right? Even the BBC did an expose on it.
My God.
So nobody is safe. And then Labour say, I know, let's put some CCTV up. For what? To capture it after it's happened?
I couldn't agree more, and I salute the Pink Ladies and organisations like yours. It's so frustrating, isn't it, when you people think I have a go at Labour the whole time. It's all for show, isn't it? Of course. Yeah. Better lighting, CCTV, replacing dark underpasses. Of course I want women to be safe, but why can we not have a conversation about one of the real issues? I remember in Epping, the council, bless them, stood up and said, we're not having these people in that migrant hotel. Everybody applauded. Our own government took that council back to court because, in the words of their KC, the rights of migrants are more important than the rights of local women and children. It's appalling, man.
But even, Jeremy, I've just read a thing this morning. There's a guy in Newham who is standing as an independent councillor in May, and he has done an expose this morning on the fact that there's an HMO that should house 6 men in Newham, in East London, and they have 25 men living there, next door to 2 families. And there is nobody that you can go to complain because nobody listens. And these men may have well been, you know, kicked out of hotels because they didn't get their asylum approved. Yeah. And then they just disappear. They disappear and then they go and live in areas and communities next door to schools and kids. It is not okay. It has got to be dealt with. And putting on patrols and putting on lights and CCTV is not going to deal with the problem. The problem is absolutely out of control in this country.
Listen, I could talk to you all day. I think you do an amazing job, and trust me, we will listen and talk, and we will continue the fight as always have done. Almost 8 o'clock. Sarah Poaching on the way. More of your calls. 0344 499 1000. But the news at 8 is next.
crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're live across the United Kingdom. We'll Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock, Britain. Many of you up in arms at the news you're waking up to today. Yesterday, Rachel Thieves, the incompetent Chancellor, who everybody's given a chance to, but seemingly gets it wrong and wrong and wrong every single time, jumped up in the Commons to respond to what we all know is happening. There's a war in Iran. But everything seems to be becoming more and more expensive. And I aim this at the alarm clock Brits that I work for. Food's becoming more expensive, fuel's becoming more expensive, oil and gas, and yet all that happens is we get taxed by this government to seemingly inflate their welfare bill at £400 million a year. We've got no military. Anyway, she thought it would be a good idea to stand up and say the reason that petrol prices are going up and everything's more expensive is not only the war in Iran, it's also Liz Truss. To which I say, and it's really caused anger this morning, completely with all of you, they're saying, everybody's saying, so basically, you are going to do what you think is right, which is to look after those on benefit, and you're going to enable everybody who's middle class as rich. We all go to work, we pay our taxes, and we're at the back of the queue again, because this government doesn't care about us. And that's what Alarm Clock Britain is up in arms about this morning, because they're saying, you do nothing for us but tax. The jams, the just about managing. You know who you are. You listen to the show right now, and you're saying, why am I always screwed? Listen to Chris in Middlesbrough. Last night, I actually celebrated, Jez. I got a £2 pay rise. I worked really hard. I've worked out this morning what that means. I've gone from having my mouth and nose under the water to gasping for air just above the waterline for a few weeks. But ultimately, the fuel costs will destroy that increase and the food, and I'll be worse off next year than I am this year because this government can't bloody well add up. Morning, Charlie.
Morning, Jezza. It's Charlie and George and Kev. On our way to work again, helping pay for that £400 billion bill that everybody's got to put in for to keep all the have-nots in fags and cider and whatnot, weed. Little story. My friend passed away nearly 3 years ago. His widow gets evicted today because she works. There's no help for her at all. She has to move in with her mum. Yeah, just something to chew on, that, isn't it? There's nothing for her at all. So we're all going to work, and she's still going to work this morning, but she's got nowhere to go at the end of the day. Have a good day, mate.
And that, my friend, sums up the utter frustration this morning. We say a very good morning to the First Lady of Reform UK, MP for Runcorn and Helsbury. Good morning, Sarah Pochin. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. Well, I feel terrible this morning because I've just discovered that every time I come on your show and I have a little chat and a warm-up with someone I thought was Christian, but actually it turns out it's Damien. So I've got all my men in a muddle. I'm going to have to come in and get them all lined up and work out who I've been flirting with all this time.
I can only say the trauma of this is reverberating around the bit through the glass, because one person who's been conversing with you on text and getting little kisses isn't the... I mean, this is like a three-ball we need to talk about, and we will talk about it off air. Can I put something to you very seriously, though, to start? I don't think I've experienced anger like this amongst my audience. For her yesterday, Rachel Reeves, to stand up and say, you know what, you rich middle-class people, which is fundamentally an insult, we are going to charge you more tax, you are going to foot the bill for all the feckless who do nothing. And Sarah, I just want to make the point, I have to make the point. Whenever we have this debate on this station, people will phone in and write and they'll go, you're being horrible to the genuine people. No, I'm not. In fact, I will repeat it every second if I have to, which is I am more than happy to pay my taxes, as Charlie, who was just on, and his mates will, for people who genuinely need it, like the widow of his mate who died 3 years ago, but not unless we have a debate in this country about the people who sit on their backsides, never work, have no intention of working, and are gaming the system along with people coming to this country. Middle class, working class, I call them jams, are fed up to the back teeth, Sarah, genuinely, about being last in the queue. And it is... I've never felt that there's such a sense of unfairness and anger.
I couldn't agree with you more. And look, you know, none of this needs to happen. For a start, we can turn the tap on in the North Sea. We can start drilling for our own gas. And of course, we can tackle the benefit system. So none of this needs to happen. And hardworking people do not need to be under this sort of pressure. And for example, my son, actually, one of my sons messaged me yesterday and said, oh, my God, Mum, let me tell you how much it's just cost me to fill my heating oil tank up. My husband even texted me this morning and said it's just cost me £144 to fill his work truck up. But and that's £40 more than before this war started. But my husband gets up at 6 o'clock every morning and works a 12-hour day and keeps food on the table for 20 families. My son is starting his own business. He already employs somebody. They've got work ethic. So much about this is wrong. You know, people, we need to get people off benefits. We need to get people in work. But the people that are working, like my husband, like my son, should not be paying for those that, as you say, are sat on the sofa.
I just don't understand why we won't have a debate. We've got, on the one hand, this government that seems to want, and excuse my French, wipe the backside of people who are feckless, and that is not the genuine people. But let's have the debate. And on the other hand, they've got at their fingertips an amount of money that would sort out every social, every public service, every debt, every interest payment. It's called the North Sea, and we refuse to do anything. Now, you know that I have a job to do, so I have to ask you a question that I've been sent by 4 or 5 people that doesn't look very good if it's true. Apparently there was a vote in the Commons yesterday, Sarah, to attempt to force the government to commit to more oil and gas production. It was defeated. Am I right in saying that not one Reform MP voted because people are angry?
Well, yesterday, it isn't quite what it seems. Yesterday was an opposition day, and the opposition day doesn't achieve anything. So Reform, you know, we do, instead of sitting in the Commons for no reason, we go and, you know, work in our constituencies or do the things that we need to do. But everybody knows that a Reform government will 100% immediately on day one start the work to increase production from the North Sea, and we'll start drilling for gas because we are sat on more than enough energy to last us for decades.
No, I get that, but lots of people have said to me, wouldn't it have been better as a look for you lot, the 5 of you, 8 of you, whatever, to have voted en masse with the Tories to make the point that this government needs to get rid of this ideology for the benefit of this country? You can talk about it in the manifesto, I know all of that, and I'm just being straight with you. And people are saying that's not a good look, not voting.
Well, like I say, the fact is it just achieves nothing. It's not a vote that's meaningful, so we don't waste our time with opposition day motions. It's sort of, you know, it's just talking for the sake of it.
Is it procedure,
really,
is it? It's procedural.
Yeah, it just doesn't achieve anything. You know, I will be voting all day today on the Lord's amendments to the judicial stuff that's coming through in the chamber.
Oh, what,
today.
ban a jury, more madness from this government.
You know, I was voting Monday night. So whenever there's a meaning, I mean, I was in the Commons till, I don't know, 9:30 Monday night voting. Whenever there's votes that are you know, what's the word? Proper voting, if you like.
I guess what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way that many people have said to me this morning is, did Reform not vote for something that they say they're going to implement because they wanted to distance themselves from the Tories?
No. It just doesn't. It's just a meaningless day yesterday, an opposition day, and it's something that Reform would look at getting rid of. And by the way, can I say, I thought it was very rich talking about the Tories as you've brought them up, listening to Mel Stride this morning. And you know what? I've met him. He seems a very nice guy. And I was quite impressed when I heard him at the dispatch box at PMQs once. He stood in. But listening to him this morning, it's a bit rich, isn't it? Saying that they can open up the oil from the North Sea and all the rest of it. Why didn't they? You know, why
did they not continue? This is a real bone of contention for me, because if I ask a Tory, they say that up to the last days of power, they were giving out licences to drill. Are you saying that's not true?
What I'm saying is they were in power for 14 years. Labour, yes, making an absolute
pig's ear.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, before you say it, yeah, pig's ear. I'm helping you.
Thank you, of the last 18 months. But the fact is, look, we have not arrived in this situation of being totally exposed on our energy sources in the last 18 months. This has been a part of the Tory government for 14 years. And Mel Stride to stand there and say, well, we could sort this out. Why don't the Labour government? Well, why didn't they? You know, I'm sorry, but this has been absolutely as much the fault of the Conservatives as it is of the Labour government. They've just accelerated it with Madden net zero,
I want to bring up with you somebody who I don't usually talk about, but I'm trying my best, genuinely, on this show to try and bring all sides. Sir Ed Davey seems to have... Well, he was doing a bake-off thing yesterday, and honestly, it's just, I can't take, but I have to take it seriously. He's basically come out while stirring on a celebrity bake-off thing. He says, Reform UK, and the Tories actually, but Reform UK, are importing into this country Trump-style divisive politics. I'd love to get a response from you to that. I have my own beliefs, but I'd like to hear what an elected Reform MP thinks of Sir Ed Davey's comments.
Well, look, the fact is that we are speaking on behalf of so many people, so many British people now that just want their country back, that want our culture, want to be able to be proud of our culture. And calling us divisive is easy. It's easy to sort of throw names around. But the fact is, look, people are following us. People are pinning their hopes on reform to get our values back and to be stand up to fly the flag. Do you know what, Jeremy? Last night.
Can I just jump in? Because if you are watching on YouTube, and I won't take any credit, there is a picture there, some footage of Ed Miliband. No, what is he called? Ed Davey taking part in a sort of celebrity charity bake-off. And if you are watching, his appearance. Forget his appearance. All the way round this thing is Union Jack flags, which, with respect to Sir Ed Davey, makes him a far-right thug, doesn't it, Sarah Pochin?
Well, and look, it's so hypocritical, isn't it? So hypocritical. That's exactly what Reform wants to do, fly the flags from everywhere. But look at him, he's a joke. You know, I'm sorry, there's so many more important things to do than make a cake at the moment. You know, it's an absolute joke. But listen, last night I went out with someone who doesn't share my politics, couldn't be further away from my politics, and actually somebody quite close to me. And of course, we inevitably end up talking about this. And he said, but you are so divisive. What you're saying is so divisive. And I said, do you agree with the statement that anybody in this country illegally should be deported back to where they came from? And do you know what? He sat there and he ummed and ahed. And I said, look, yes or no, do you agree with that statement? And he had to say yes. I said, well, what is divisive about that stance? What is divisive?
I'll tell you, because I'll tell you my opinion. The reason that the people call that divisive, when I know that Alarm Clock Brits support that completely because they feel like they're put at the back of the queue, is because it challenges what has become, I don't know, the norm. It challenges the establishment who have been living off this idiocy for years and years. It's very easy to say. One of the things that I ask every Reform politician, and I'll ask you, is if you do get elected and if you do make good the promise that you will detain and deport these people, are you ready for the howls of anger from the left? And I know that Nigel would say that he is, but there will undoubtedly be American-esque response from the Liberals who just think that every sane thing has been taken away. I think that's a really interesting question, though.
Yes, and the answer is absolutely 100% yes, we are ready. And this is why I think people say, you know, well, you don't change your rhetoric, you don't change your message. No, we don't. We all stick to the same message. It is about the will of the government to sort this out. Shabama Mahmood has done nothing. She talks the talk, but has anything actually changed? No. We're still paying the French millions to sort, and all they do is wave them through. And yesterday I was hearing now that they're coming through from Belgium, aren't they? Because Belgium are toughening up on their sort of policies in terms of what these people get when they arrive in Belgium. And so the Belgians are now pushing them over to us as well. We are a laughing stock in Europe with our policies for these people. And Shabama Mahmood has achieved absolutely nothing when it comes to stopping the boats.
Just final question, you're brilliant as ever. People talk to me all the time about reform and they say, how do you beat the blob? How do you do this? How do you stop the boats? Well, the will is there. Is the will there? Can this, to the people who are listening, is it empty words, or would a Reform government do exactly what it says it will do on the tin?
Exactly. And listen, I'll give you an example to all the people listening. 4.6 million people were going to be denied a vote on May the 7th in local elections. Reform took on the establishment. Reform took on the government. And we have got a vote back now for 4.6 million people. Yes, we will take them on. Yes, we will win, because, as I say, it is about the will of the government to stand up for the British people.
Sarah, it's always a pleasure. Just a little note before you go. I'm the presenter. I'm called Jeremy. Christian's the producer in the glasses. And the other pervert, well, he's called G-Spot. We'll let it go.
I'm coming in. I'm coming in next week.
I'm going out. Lovely. See you soon. 8:20, Talk Breakfast.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:21. Such a busy show this morning. Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, you're up in arms this morning about Rachel Reeves, who says there will be a fuel shortage and basically I'm going to look after the most needy, those on benefits, and the rest of you rich people, really, lower working class people who are striving to do everything, we're going to screw you to the ground. Sadiq Khan has been criticised this morning. He hasn't even yet bothered to turn up at the scene of that Jewish ambulance attack. People up in arms about that, showing preferences. And also, there's a great story. I'll do a quick voice note. Morgan McSweeney, do you remember him, the Chief of Staff for Starmer? Now, this big investigation to Lord Mandelson means that they want to find out all the information from the WhatsApps that were sent from Morgan McSweeney whilst he was the Chief of Staff in government to Peter Mandelson. But, hey, guess what? He's lost his phone. And the Met Police have announced, right, they took down the wrong address when they interviewed him and they were too busy and now they can't find it. I mean, I'm not conspiratorial, but it doesn't look good. Morning, Neil.
Morning, Jeremy. Neil in Basingstoke here. So with regard to this missing, he says, doing the two-finger thing, missing phone that's stolen of Morgan McSweeney. The point is, though, those messages go to someone else's phone. So those messages will be on Starmer's phone and they'll be on Mandelson's phone, surely, which they do have access to. So if they say those messages are lost, they're not being strictly honest with us, are they? Anyway, keep up the good work. Bye.
I can't believe that anybody would come on this show and say that this government is not honest. But next is a man who wrote a wonderful article for the day. It doesn't stop for Starmer, does it? For the Daily Telegraph last week. He said, Starmer has delighted our enemies, disheartened all of our friends, and debased our nation. What a great summing up. Lord Daniel Hannan, a very big welcome to breakfast. That
Good
just
morning,
about
Jeremy.
nails it, Daniel, doesn't it?
Yeah. How long, by the way, until we find that Peter Mandelson's phone has been mysteriously lost in the Severn River or wherever he lives, right? I mean, it really is taking us all for fools.
It is, and I said this morning, Daniel, I mean, whether it's Mandelson, whether it's benefit claimants over taxpayers, they just think net zero, all that resource and huge debts they refuse to face up to, but print more money or borrow more money. Do you think they have a death wish? Genuine, serious, quite straight question about this government, because I don't think in all of my time, I mean, we've had many incompetent prime ministers and governments, but this lot seem, that's the best way to describe it, they've got a death wish, man. They don't seem to realise anything.
It's a very good question. I was talking to a Blair-era Labour figure yesterday, and he said that the issue is just that they don't understand economics at all. It's not that they reject the free market, it's just they don't know what it is. So we have this problem of incredibly expensive energy caused by government policy, caused by the net zero policies, the ban on North Sea drilling, the ban on fracking, etc., etc. And their solution is not to say, let's get more energy and bring the price down. It's to say, let's take even more taxes to give to more people to deal with the consequence of our own high energy policy. And I think what we're seeing is a basic lack of understanding of how things work. I mean, even while you and I have been talking, even while we've been on air, the national debt has risen by about £300,000. We are spending nearly two and a half times as much on working age adult benefits, so not counting pensions, as we are on defence. And that's just not a sustainable situation.
But it's not sustainable. It's also, I mean, I said it all morning, I've never seen such palpable anger this morning. The reason I say common sense is, you've got this resource that would pay off your debts and it would enable you to invest in creaking public services, sections of this society in this country that are on their knees. And yet, no, we're going to tax the people who work hard, they're just about managing, and we're going to give it to people. And this is a debate, Daniel, I will continue to have until people throw me off this station. I am an absolute supporter of the benefit system. I will repeat it 100 times a show. It was the greatest invention in the modern world. But we are now at a point in 2026 where signing on has become a choice, and where half of the people are not mentally ill, they're not disabled, they're feckless and they're lazy, and they need to be called out in support, I think, for all those people who go to work every single day and do their jobs and pay their taxes and are being crushed. And I do not know why politicians, not in this government, need to face that, because it's a time bomb in my mind. It really is. The British people.
I wonder whether the problem isn't that in a lot of these Labour constituencies there are more people claiming from the system than paying into it. Yeah. There was a terrifying statistic that was dwelt on by my colleague Lord Elliott, the former chief exec of the Vote Leave campaign in the House of Lords last week, that we are now spending more on benefits for working age adults, again excluding pensions, than we're raising in income tax. So all of the people going to work, you and me and all the people listening now in their cars on their way to work, are still not raising as much as the people who are one way or another not working. Now, of course, some of them are disabled, mentally ill, whatever, but
absolutely.
When 3,000 people a day are signing on as too sick to work, plainly something has gone badly wrong. And
we're soft.
Well, do you know, but when you say, why does nobody do anything about it? Do you remember there was a vote about trying to tackle this problem in the summer of last year? And on all the Labour MPs' WhatsApp groups, there was a statistic circulating that showed that the number of people claiming PIP was higher than the Labour majority in 50-something seats. And that will be a higher number today. And I think that's really what's driving this.
But I think that is also probably part of the problem, Daniel, with respect, because I think that people are now saying, and I call them the silent majority, I think they're saying, so there's no point in me working because whatever I get taxed is going to benefit people who don't put anything in. I'm looking at people coming into this country illegally who are given a better life than me, and the very people we should be supporting, the disabled people, the people who can't work, pensioners, farmers, waspy women, the list goes on. We're going to see them screwed by this government. It's just, to me, it's utterly extraordinary. I need to break in, actually. I've got some breaking news, Daniel, which I would love some response from you, if you don't mind. Breaking news on Talk Breakfast. Two men aged 47 and 45 have in the last hour been arrested in connection with the Golders Green arson attack. The Metropolitan Police have said, so 2 men aged 47 and 45 in the last hour arrested in connection with that Golders Green arson attack. Monday, you saw the footage against those unbelievable ambulances provided by the Jewish community, driven by the Jewish community, for the whole community. To me, symbolising absolutely a rise in anti-Semitism. Again, nothing from the government. Daniel Hannan, your response to that news, please.
Well, we don't know who they were. We don't know what their motives were. We don't know if they were acting for a foreign government. But we do know this. What kind of utter, debased, amoral maniac attacks an ambulance? Yeah. I mean, that is... I'm struggling to find words for somebody who thinks that that is a political act. It's up there with... you know, with attacking children in a concert or in a dance class. I make my living with words, as you do, but my cupboard is bare when I try and come up with attacking an ambulance that is there to help sick people.
You're a Tory peer, and I will make this political because it's been aimed at the Labour Party quite rightly in the past. I have an abhorrence of any form of racism, but I fail again to understand something that really, really winds me up. Why, in your mind, does this government and this Labour Party not put as much importance on anti-Semitism as they seem to put on other forms of racism? I think it is an absolute disgrace to the 250,000 people, Jewish people, that live in this country. It embarrasses me, Daniel. It really does embarrass me.
I mean, I think this is a question about law and order, right? We should all, as British subjects, whether we're Jewish or Muslim or anything else, we should all be protected by the law. And by the same laws. We've got a good, robust common law system if it's applied. And it needs to be applied even-handedly and fairly. And I think that there's been a feeling that that hasn't happened. But personally, I'm against having either a statutory definition of anti-Semitism or a statutory definition of Islamophobia. I think we should all, as fellow citizens, live under exactly the same laws. And the more we get into, communalising our society and defining people by group, by ethnicity, by religion, the less easy it is to have a functioning democracy.
I accept that, but I just find it really hard. We have a girl, Alicia, a Jewish girl, who works on this show, and when that was happening on Monday, she was producing the show, and she just looked sad, and I buzzed through to her and said, "Are you all right?" And she went, yeah, we're used to this. We've had this since I was... That's what we... I just think that's a stain. I genuinely think it's a stain. And because we know that this government, and people don't like this, I don't agree with everything Nick Timothy said, but there is definite proof that with the Muslim vote, so the Labour Party will look at it and go, we're going to lose seats, as they did in the last election. I hate to think that my government, whose first duty is to protect its people and its country, are pandering to certain sections of that society to the detriment of others. That's how I'd put it. Well, that's not balance.
It's definitely the case that this country, until very recently, had not had any issue with anti-Semitic violence. I think there was one Jewish guy killed in the 60s, and that was it, right? And that's very different from what happens in the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Germany, where anti-Semitic attacks are routine. The attack on the synagogue in Manchester was the first of its kind, and I think that changed the kind of sense we had of ourselves. That this had, until certainly before the foundation of the US, this was the best place in the world to be Jewish because we were, we were a good place to be a minority religion, and we need absolutely to crack down on that. And I think we need to do the same about any violence. If people attack mosques in the same way, we have to show exactly the same toughness. All British citizens need to be protected. This needs to be a place where we're all equal and we're all fundamentally defined by our citizenship, not by our faith or our ancestry.
I agree, but I just don't feel right now that people feel that. Listen, it is always a play. You are always welcome on the show. A huge amount of intelligence and a sea of mediocrity, mostly mine. Daniel Hannan, Lord Daniel Hannan. You're very kind. Thank you very much, the Conservative peer and former advisor to the UK Board of Trade. 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Just to repeat that breaking news on Talk Breakfast. In the last hour, the Met Police have confirmed that 2 men aged 47 and 45 have been arrested in connection with that Golders Green arson attack on Monday. Those ambulances that were provided by the Jewish community for the whole community taken out overnight. Definitely the most appalling example of anti-Semitism we've seen for many, many years. But a 47 and 45-year-old man have been arrested more throughout the day from the Metropolitan Police. Morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Jezza. I think I can have this very frank conversation with you. Anti-Semitism is racism. I don't know why we have a separate word. I actually think it was created by the old inside the M25 dinner party lot, because it was a way of preaching hatred without having and being called a dirty word of racist. The actual fact we have the separate word anti-Semitism for Jewish people is actually, you could argue, a racist connotation in itself, because they don't fall under the same banner because they're Jewish. So, Labour Party, the only Westminster party in history to be found at its core to be anti-Semitic / racist.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 25 to 9. We're live across the United Kingdom. So many of you wanted to get involved. Your views on the news of the day on 0344 499 1000. Texts 87222. You might want to talk about Rachel Reeves, Sadiq Khan, Morgan McSweeney's phone. Just want to take time again on this show to follow a story that I refuse to not follow. The heinous murder of 3 innocent people, of course, Grace O'Malley Kumar, Barnaby Webber and Ian Coates. 3 people killed in the Nottingham attacks in June 2023 by that vile human being, Valdo Calacane, who's in a hospital with a swimming pool because apparently he's traumatised. It's the 5th week of the national inquiry, and on a daily basis, stuff comes out that would point to the most ludicrous and unnecessary failings on so many fronts. Yesterday, Barnaby's mother was here. It was an extraordinary interview. So many of you were involved, and we decided today we want to talk about this story. It's a story that should affect and does affect so many people. Delighted to be joined this morning down the line, the son of Ian Coates, who of course sadly was killed in that. James Coates, welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you, my friend?
I'm all right. Good morning, Jeremy.
I've followed this for 2 years because to me it's symbolic of what's wrong with this country. I appreciate your time. Emma spoke very candidly yesterday about the fight to get justice, but more than anything, the fight to highlight the severe failings on so many fronts that allowed Valdo Calacane to be on the streets at all. How difficult is it when you're mourning that the unfairness and the fact that this could have been prevented is there the whole time in your mind?
It's extremely difficult. Just trying to go back to normality after the attacks, returning to work and going by my day-to-day basis, to then keep getting emails and phone calls every week, more or less, telling us that something else has come up about a missed opportunity, or the WhatsApp message scandal has come up, and then the behind closed doors meeting with the police. It seemed to be just more bombshell after bombshell, and we're almost 3 years in, and there's still new information coming out now.
I read that you learned of your father's death through a family friend on Instagram. The police didn't come and tell you straight away?
No. So because of the inquiry, I've now found out that my telephone number was available to the police at 7:48 in the morning, And it wasn't until 5 o'clock in the afternoon that we actually got a phone call from the police to inform us what happened. But
What is their response to that, for Christ's sake?
They haven't really given any sort of response yet to it.
You've criticised the support you were given by the police afterwards as well. Tell us something about that, my friend.
Yeah, so we were put in touch with victim support quite a while after it had happened. We were all desperate to just speak to somebody and get our feelings out, because we didn't know who we could talk to and how. Like, it was a lot going on. So we were asking if there's a chance to speak to a professional, and it was 9 months down the line that we finally got given the chance to speak to a therapist.
9 months?
Yeah.
I nearly said the wrong thing then. Can I say the wrong thing? Imagine if you come into Britain on a boat and your father had been murdered. You've seen a therapist the next day. This is appalling. I mean, I read a couple of things today, my friend, and tell me, it emerged on Monday that your father's body remained at the scene for 15 hours with his body only covered by a blanket. What the hell were these people up to?
Yeah, and to make it even harder, it's literally just around the corner from where I live. So the restraint to keep myself at home and not wander around the corner just to see him, like, it was really tough. But yeah, I don't understand. People say, oh, collecting forensic evidence, etc., but it can be done quite quickly. And Barney and Grace were removed from the scene quite swiftly, and to be sat there for 15 hours, yeah, it's unreal.
It's beyond unreal, and for people who, like right now, are open-mouthed at the radio, this is and never was an attempt by the families to point the finger, but this inquiry has found more and more stuff. Yesterday, and this is in every newspaper today, I mean, Nottingham police, God, this isn't going to go away. Giving evidence yesterday, your late father's partner, Elaine Newton, said, I hope you don't mind me reading this out, this is just a newspaper. She was initially told that Ian had died in a road traffic accident, and then a few hours later the police informed her that actually he'd been stabbed. They then went on, I can't even bring myself to read this. Nottingham police urged the widow of knife victim to get a dog to get over the tragedy. Is this genuinely true?
It was victim support that had told her that. She'd complained about victim support's professionability yesterday, which I also spoke about in my evidence. But yeah, the police, for 4 hours, she sat in limbo, as she said, like, thinking that a partner had died in a car accident and not having the full scope and full answers, and then to be told that he's actually been brutally stabbed to death. Like, it's disgusting. She's such a frail, nice lady, and it's the worst possible thing you could ever do to her, and it happened.
I'm not going to insult you by asking the impact on all of you. I add to that, as I did at the beginning, the horror of realising that so many mistakes were made. What do you want from this national inquiry, James? What will allow you to move forward, all of you?
I don't think we'll ever be really able to move forward. The fact that the killer is in a hospital being treated nice and won't serve in prison and be punished for his crimes will never sit easy with me. I think my last tiny bit of hope with the inquiry is that there is some sort of systematic change. The fact that the police, the university, the mental health trust and the NHS have got zero communication between themselves is the whole reason why Callacane was allowed to be on the streets murdering people. There has to be some sort of change. It can't just be a blanket apology, someone retires, and in a couple of years' time this happens again.
Well, you know, Emma said yesterday stuff that sort of nearly had me falling off the chair, that a certain mental health worker had thought it would be a good idea to release Valdo Callacane back into society despite the issues that he had, because it would be seen as racist if she didn't. The police... Yeah. I genuinely feel so much for all of you. The reason I want to do this story again is because you're so right. We point the finger at this country, sometimes at people who don't deserve it, and they get hounded. This is an utter dereliction of duty. The police, leaving your father's body, not talking to to Elaine for 8 hours, saying different things about how he died, telling her to get a dog, 9 months for victim support. You are the bloody victims. What? To me, it's just symptomatic of what's wrong with society. I have to say, though, the fact there is a national inquiry, when you consider the furore over a rape gang inquiry, which is still not going to happen after 8 years, is, I suppose, a good thing and a benefit. Yeah, it's probably the only positive thing that's come out of it, except for meeting the other families and having that connection with them. The public inquiry is obviously a big thing for us, and it's hopefully going to bring more positive changes. What needs to change across the whole spectrum for you? Because I know, having spoken to Emma and just picking up on you in this short space of time, that it's become a life's work in the memory of the loved ones that you lost to put right and bring to task the people who made the mistakes they made. So I guess it doesn't happen again, right? Yeah, I think communication is, over the last 4 and a bit weeks, we've seen that's been a massive downfall for everybody. So I think that is a big point that needs to be put into place going forward. And then there needs to be more changes. There needs to be more scrutiny on people that aren't doing the jobs properly. Why do you think they failed their jobs? I mean, again, we sit and we do this show, and I'm going, so you didn't tell her for 9 hours how this poor man died. You left his body for 15 hours, this poor man who had been brutally stabbed to death. You didn't provide his sons and his partner help with victim support for 9 months. This is beyond a mistake. This is almost complete dereliction. I've used the word already. I think it just stems from years and years of laziness, corner cutting, and getting away with it. And it's only now that everything sort of fell into place, and now people are being pulled up for their actions. And I think it's not just the police, it's everywhere. Wherever they can cut a corner and save time and save money, they'll do it. And the problem is it affects the public, and especially the people of Nottingham that put their trust in the police and the NHS in their city, and they're just being continued to be failed by them. I was also very, very, strong on, yes, we can talk about money, but what about common sense? Can I just read you a text that I've had from Brian in Durham? Recallicane and others, I don't know why they don't put them through the court, sentence them, do the Mental Health Act assessment and send them to a secure hospital. At least then, when they're well, they can be sent back to prison like they did with Sutcliffe. I'm a mental health nurse, and psychiatry is an absolute bloody joke now, which leads me to ask the question to you. There's no doubt that vile, heinous human being, Valdo Callicane had issues. It seems massively unfair, though, that those that he overrode to do what he did, because a lot of it was preordained, pre-planned, do you feel he's got away with it by being in this hospital? 100%. The fact that he's classed as a patient and not a prisoner, it just shows he will never be charged with murder. When he starts to take his meds and gets better, he won't go to prison. He'll just go out into the public. And we've known from the last 2.5 years that he doesn't keep taking his medication. You're telling me that will be released at some point, are you? More than likely, yeah. The stats say that it will be soon enough that it will get released. I mean, oh dear, mate. I don't know what to say, save what I've said to Emma and what I've said to everybody who's always been good enough to come on and talk about this. This is so awful for so many people, more so because it could have been avoided, and more so at the severe institutionalised failings. What strengthens, I think, people who listen to this story is that yourself and your brother and Emma won't stop the fight. And in a way, that's in memory of your dad, right? Yeah, he can't be here to speak for himself, so we have to speak on his behalf. We have to keep fighting, and we can't bring our dad and Barney and Grace back, but with the hope is that we can stop this happening again, and maybe if it saved one life, it's good enough for me. I really appreciate you being here, and I know how difficult it is, mate, and rest assured with one thing, that this station, this show will always follow this story and will support you in any way that we can, and we really appreciate your time, James.
Right, thank you, appreciate it.
James Coate, one of the sons of Ian Coate, one of 3 people killed in those Nottingham attacks in 2023. Valdo Calacane. It turns out, week 5 of the inquiry, the police missed out on him. A mental health nurse released him because it was racist if they kept him in prison. Institutionalised failure across so many levels that led to the 3 people on that screen, Ian Coates, Barnaby Wevergles, Grace Kumar, murdered in broad daylight by a man who should not have been on our streets and is now, let's just be totally honest, in a hospital, not labelled as a prisoner, labelled as a patient. God, this country does my head in. 0344 499 1000. Next, top biographer Tom Bower. More on that new book, Betrayal, Power, Deceit and the Future of the Royal Family. Have a listen. While we're on and we've got you, and by the way, peeps, the book is fantastic. 26, Betrayal, Power, Deceit and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family by our very own Tom Bower. The King has come in for quite a bit of criticism recently over Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. One of the most regular things that gets said to me on the show is, yes, they've called him out, yes, he's been exiled, yes, he's living, but so many people say to me, hold on a minute, you are still paying King Charles for your brother, who thought it was a good idea to have a relationship even after he'd served time as the most notorious paedophile in the land. You're paying for him to have a chef and a valet. That doesn't sit with the hard-working Brit who goes, you know, this isn't enough. Where do you see this ending? Do you think you'll go to jail, by the way, Tom?
Well, I have my doubts about the criminality of what his appalling treatment, appalling behaviour. But, of course, Andrew is culpable of the most terrible, terrible sins, including lying to the nation in the Newsnight interview. I think the problem with Charles is always weak, has always been afraid of confrontation. He left it far, far too late to bring Andrew out of the public spotlight and literally push him into exile in Sandringham. And now we're all paying the price. The monarchy is paying the price. But unfortunately, this saga has a long way to go, and it's going to constantly damage the royal family.
Well, I think that's the point. People are going to demand greater transparency, and people will say to me, unfortunately, the King is in a position where he's harbouring a criminal suspect, and that criminal suspect, who can be accused of the lowest of the low, is still living the life of Riley. Somebody said to me, he could, any court case, he can do a Paul Burrell and get out simply by saying, I told my brother, and the King can't turn up as a witness. It's just a tawdry affair, and when you put in this amazing book about Harry and Meghan, and when you look at Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the peril for the royal family has never been greater, has it, Tom?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, this is a great existential crisis, but you know, on the whole, the British public, by a majority, still favours a monarchy over having President Angela Rayner, or, God forbid, someone even worse. God. So I think that we'll survive it all. We've gone through quite a few earthquakes over the past 1,000 years, but it's a very bad moment for the royal family, and it does need somebody of great wisdom to navigate it back to safer waters.
Do you think, it's a strong question, but it's one that I've been asking for weeks, and some people recoil in horror. Do you think his love for the monarchy and everything that's so important, King Charles, and I give him credit that he spent 70-plus years waiting for his job, and that only happens when your mother dies. Do you think if he was faced with the issue that the only way to save the monarchy would be to stand aside, wipe the slate clean and let his son and daughter-in-law accede to the throne, do you think, using the excuse of his illness, he might do that for the better good of the British monarchy?
I don't believe in abdication. I think you can't pick a mix with the monarchy. You get it hereditary, you get it for life. The succession is done on death. And I don't think it would strengthen the monarchy whatsoever. In fact, it would weaken the monarchy. It would be like having 5 prime ministers under the Tories.
What, in 3 weeks or something like that? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you can't do that. No, the monarchy has got to find a way out of this. They will. It'll take time. And that's the only way of solving the problem.
But Harry and Meghan currently will do anything for a few quid. You think at some point he would want to come back? Maybe that will be the breakdown of his marriage. You think the King will survive, but there will be a need and a desire from the British people for far greater transparency down the line, because people believe that there's been so many cover-ups and so many lies, right?
I think that is a problem. And, of course, Charles himself is guilty of quite a few transgressions, as I showed in my original book, The Rebel Prince.
Yep.
He's not Lily White at all.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why he's soft with Andrew? Because he's scared that Andrew might bleat?
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that whenever he raised the issues with Andrew, Andrew replied, look what you did with Camilla while you were married to Diana. Look what you did with money with Michael Fawcett and getting cash for access to raise money for your charities. It's been a great problem for Charles. He comes to the whole problem of Andrew with baggage of his own. And that's the problem. We do need to wipe the slate clean. And we hope that William and Kate will do that.
In time.
But we've got to wait, and there's a long way to go still.
And just two more questions. Fergie seems to be traipsing around America trying to sell a story about cloning corgis. The girls have been dragged into this as well. I remember being interviewing, I think it was Andrew Loney, and saying, you know, we're all having a go at these poor girls aged 6 and 8 being dragged to America. Turns out they were 18 and 20. There's stuff in the papers over the last couple of weeks that maybe their marriages are under pressure. Those three, Fergie, Eugenie and Beatrice, have questions to answer as well, don't they, Tom?
Well, they do. They do indeed. And I think I'm rather disappointed. I was always told that the daughters were decent and lily-white clean. Clearly, they were under the influence of their parents, but clearly as well, how they raised the money for their own hugely expensive standard of living is also to be answered. And Fergie has always been an unexploded or exploded landmine. It has been a complete catastrophe, that whole relationship and bringing her into the royal family. I mean, the real problem, Jeremy, is that both Fergie and Meghan have got one absolute dynamite asset in their pockets, and that's a book. And they can write whatever they like and get away with it. And the more sensational and the more dishonest, the better. And that is a great problem for the royal family.
Do you think that on the back of everything, and this book is, by the way, as I said, fantastic, out Thursday, the 26th Betrayal, Power, Deceit and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family by Tom. Do you think that, yes, the light is far brighter on the royal family, but you do think the royal family will survive this in some way or other, but change will be needed?
I think that I'm sure the royal family will survive. My fear is they haven't got the greatest advisors around them, and that really is a problem. I think they're trying to strengthen the advisors. They've got a very poor prime minister to advise them. They don't have a good cabinet secretary to advise them. So this is the great problem for the royal family in the last few years. They've been poorly advised, and unfortunately, King Charles is somebody who never takes advice if it's what advice he doesn't like. And he always fires the advisor rather than he listens to the advisor's unpleasant recommendations.
I've heard that.
And that's a great problem.
Now, we know each other well enough. I'm blowing smoke where it needs to go. Book. I'm going to be talking about it. I'm going to ask you a question. Are you all right? Will you answer any question for me?
Yeah, okay, go on.
Are you planning another book?
I am.
Is it going to be on Nigel Farage? Because you've been seen at every single presser. Is it going to be on Nigel Farage?
It is indeed, yes.
When can we expect that?
Well, sometime next year. I mean, books take a little bit of time to research and write.
Is Nigel part of this, or is this you from a distance?
No, I mean, I've known Nigel for some years, but it's completely unauthorised. He won't have any influence of it other than what I see and judge. But, you know, in the end, Nigel Farage is a critical factor in a political climate at the moment. And whatever people think of him, he has huge support. And he's a force to be reckoned with. And therefore, someone I'm really interested in. But it will be my own book. Nothing to do with
listen, I'm delighted to be interviewed for that, and I will be doing exactly for that book what I'm doing for this one. We look forward to the Nigel Farage exclusive. But, ladies and gentlemen, Betrayal, Power, Deceit, The Fight for the Future of the Royal Family by Tom Bauer is out this Thursday, the 26th. And, Tom, thank you so much indeed for joining us on Breakfast this morning. You take care, my friend.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom, hour 4 of breakfast for Wednesday, the 25th of March. And I walked into the office this morning and I thought, oh, this is going to be quite a quiet day. How wrong was I? You lot have gone absolutely nuts at Rachel Thieves, our Chancellor, who yesterday stood up and said the reason fuel's going up and everything's expensive is because of the Iran war and Liz Truss. Not because you've got a welfare bill of £407 billion. And then she took it further, which really alienated most of the people that listen to this show by saying, what I've decided to do is I'm going to tax the rich, you middle-class people. Oh, you mean the jams? They're just about managing. You haven't got any money because they just live their lives correctly and you keep taxing and give it to all the people on benefits. That's really fair and really barking mad, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. So much to talk about. The anger towards her, encapsulated very nicely by Lee. Good morning, Lee.
Morning, Jezza. Lee from Scarborough, in his van, again, off to work, veteran, mate. Reeves, Miliband and Starmer, the most three dangerous people in this country at the moment. These are absolutely ruining this country. I've worked all my life, never not had a job, never claimed anything, not a penny, yeah? Nobody's going to help me, Jez, nobody. Only person who's going to help me is me. Get your fat, lazy asses out to work, earn your money, support your family, and do what's right. Alarm clock Britain, let's wake up. Come on, Jezza. Good show, fella.
I have to say, in all of my time of doing this, I don't think I've heard such anger, and I understand it completely. 0344 499 1000. One of the other stories in the news today, and it was a little story which has taken on huge importance as the show's gone on, and we're going to have our next guest, Dan Hodges, in just a tick, but I want to explain this to you. Morgan McSweeney, the ex-chief of staff of Sir Keir Starmer, of course, who is part of this whole Lord Mandelson debacle. How did he get the job? Did he get vetted by Starmer's friends, Mandelson, text messages, WhatsApp messages? Anyway, the government started this, well, the police, I guess, have started this sort of investigation to discover what was actually said so that there can be some transparency. And lo and behold, we've discovered that Morgan McSweeney's phone has been nicked. The Metropolitan Police overnight have said, and I quote, we didn't investigate the theft of Morgan McSweeney's phone because we took down the wrong address and we were too busy to speak to him. This is, my friends, despite the fact on that phone would be the Prime Minister's number and, don't be conspiratorial, all these text messages between Lord Mandelson, who will probably end up going to jail, and Morgan McSweeney. Now, call me cynical. I thought I was until I read this incredible tweet by Dan Hodges. A. The 11th of September, Mandelson resigns. B. The 11th of September to the 13th of October, Numbers 10 start putting together a strategy for dealing with Tory demands for the messages between Mandelson and McSweeney. October the 20th, Morgan McSweeney reports his phone stolen and all messages have apparently been lost. Good morning, Dan Hodges. It's just you and me then, but it's a growing feeling this is conspiratorial, isn't it, my friend?
Well, I actually wrote about this at the start of the week, and I said, on top of his other crimes, Keir Starmer can't even manage a proper whitewash or a proper cover-up, and this is what we're seeing. And I mean, there's one aspect, obviously, of what happened that you missed out there. And I think last time I was on, you specifically asked me, was I accusing Keir Starmer and ministers of lying to the public about this and other issues? And I said categorically yes. And obviously, I've received criticism for making that allegation. But on Sunday, when the story broke, the government minister Steve Reid went on to the broadcast round and was asked about it. And there was no ambiguity. He specifically said, there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to be seen here in relation to Morgan McSweeney's mobile, because all of this happened well before the Mandelson saga broke. He actually said on one broadcast, he said, I think it happened months before the Mandelson saga broke. I think it might have even happened a year before the Mandelson saga broke. We now know that was a complete and utter lie. Now, my understanding is, Steve Reid it's not his job to go through the backdrop of all this. Steve Reid was simply articulating what he had been told to say and what the facts of the case were. But at every stage of this, as I said, from the Prime Minister down, the government is simply being caught lying. And we're going to have more of this. This is only the start of it. We are going to see, as this goes on, I'll come back on. You can remind me I said this. We will have more excuses from the government about certain messages have mysteriously been lost. Certain messages weren't backed up. Certain messages that should have been in place weren't in place. Certain emails have mysteriously been deleted. And we all know why, because the government and Keir Starmer frankly are bang to rights on this.
It's really interesting for me that you make the point, and you're a good man, that you had some kickback for daring to say that this government lies. Somebody rang in this morning, a techie, Dan, probably you were busy or in bed still, and he made a really salient point. This phone, conveniently, it's a bit Rebecca Vardy, bottom of the sea, isn't it? This phone quite innocently lost. And to absolutely stick up for Dan against Steve Reed, October the 20th, McSweeney reports phone stolen. 11th of September, Mandelson resigns. Between 11th of September to the 13th of October, Number 10 start putting a strategy together. Steve Reed, you can call him a liar. He is a liar. He's articulating lies. That's an absolute fact. What concerns me is what I was told this morning. If I sent you WhatsApp messages, right, and then I wanted to hide that by my phone disappearing, I'm just saying it how it is, they'd be on your phone, though, which means that these messages will be on Lord Mandelson's phone, and that phone apparently is in the premise of the police, isn't it?
Well, exactly. But again, we don't know what's on.
Is that going to be covered up as well? How deep does this go?
I mean, but there's another aspect to this, which is my understanding is the phone that was stolen was Morgan McSweeney's work mobile.
Right.
Now, my understanding is a lot of the messages that were conveyed and the communication between Morgan McSweeney and Peter Mandelson were conducted via his personal email. Now, the significance of that is there should be an official record of messages between Morgan McSweeney and anyone that were conducted via his work mobile. But there aren't similar messages automatically backed up on his personal mobile. Now, he is supposed to, under government regulations, ensure that any communication he's having about government business, nobody cares about his personal life, but in relation to government business, a record is supposed to be kept of that. And that is, I think, the key to this, because if you speak to the government at the moment, the government will simply flat out refuse to confirm or deny whether they have, firstly, Morgan McSweeney's personal messages to Mandelson, or whether or not they are confident they have all of the communication.
It's really interesting to me. We look back and we remember Starmer coming to power and talking about grown-up politics and putting country first and party second. And the longer this goes on, and I rather delight in this, and I don't actually apologise for it, the longer this goes on, the more holes, the more discrepancies, the more lies that we, lots of people uncover. It makes a mockery of everything that this government stands for. And it's interesting, and I have to compliment you massively. People that might know this or might not know this. Dan would have been, I guess, a couple of years ago, quite, not pro, but you'd have been more favourably looking at this government. But you, I think, because of that, are probably as appalled, if more appalled, by what you've come along. And it's really interesting to me when you come on here and you say, you know, I dared to call them liars on your show and I was called out. I honestly believe, and you and I would completely agree on how what an absolute mess the Tories made of the last 14 years, the lies, and I think you and I could have been elected last July. I mean, I think it was that appalling, right? But the depths that this lot seemingly have sunk to will, as you quite rightly say, come out, and I think we have an absolute duty. I put it really basically, Dan. You know, they spent a lot of time calling out the Tories in many, many ways, actually correctly. The same is going to befall them. I've got a question for you. This is genius from Christian. If you, Dan Hodges, were stood at... And bear in mind, Prime Minister's questions should be called Prime Minister's I'm not going to answer any damn question, because I never do. If you were there today at the dispatch box, what would you ask Sir Keir Starmer, Dan Hodges?
If I was Kemi Badenoch, I would start this session of Prime Minister's questions by asking exactly the same question she asked him last week that he refused to answer. I'd start off by asking the simple question that she asked. Did you actually speak to Peter Mandelson? Now, he refused to answer it 7 times at Prime Minister's questions. And I think it's absolutely vital. We as journalists can dig around and expose whatever aspect of this crisis.
Yeah.
But the hard fact is there is only one person in the entire country who gets to repeatedly put the Prime Minister on the spot, get 6 questions, get the opportunity to follow up. No journalist gets that opportunity with Keir Starmer on a regular basis. And to actually put him on the spot and in a position where, by convention, he is not supposed to lie, and if he does lie, then he's caught lying, he's supposed to resign. And it's absolutely vital that she keeps pushing. Now, I know there's a huge amount of stuff going on. You know, we've got a war going on. You were touching on the cost of living crisis. You know, to a number of people, this may seem a sort of a bit of a Beltway Westminster issue, but it isn't. And one of the reasons it isn't, and you've just touched on that, is this: completely framing everything that Keir Starmer did in the run-up to that election 2 years ago. And you're absolutely right. And obviously the country, whilst we had doubts about Keir Starmer, were prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt because we recognised there needed to be some form of change.
Yep.
And above everything else, Keir Starmer was elected on a mandate of being different to what preceded him. And he made great virtue of this, and in particular on this issue of cleaning up politics, being more honest about how politics was constructed, transparency in politics, basically restoring public faith in politics, politicians, and our public institutions. That was that was the sort of the framework of his entire political offer. And the reality is, as we can see, that, as I said, was just a lie. Keir Starmer is not any different. He has not cleaned up politics. We can see it on a daily basis via the Mandelson saga, him conducting the same deceptions, the same lies, the same cover-ups, the same whitewashes of all of his political predecessors. Now, if Keir Starmer wants to say, yeah, Boris did that, Rishi did that, Liz Truss did that, the people who preceded them, that's fine. But the reality is, what Keir Starmer needs to admit is he promised it to be different, and he isn't different. Yeah. He's exactly the same. And I think that lies at the heart of his current unpopularity. I think that's why people on the left of politics, in the centre of politics, and on the right of politics have had it with Keir Starmer, because he promised the country if people put their trust in him, he would be different. And as we're seeing with the Mandelson saga, he's not. He's just the same as all the rest of them.
It's interesting. You made a point there, and I wasn't doing this as Boris Johnson started to fall. And I admit, as you admitted then about Starmer, I was incredibly supportive of Boris Johnson. The more I've done this, the more I've realised he let down the people that voted for him, moved his policies far more to the centre, net zero, blah, blah, blah. He was utterly castigated by Keir Starmer. I remember watching a Prime Minister's Question Time and Boris Johnson dared to say, bit rich from you criticising me when you were the Director of Public Prosecutions and you let Jimmy Savile off the hook, and everybody went, oh, this is outrageous. The problem is, the view from the cheap seats, Keir Starmer, is a lot easier than being in the hot seat. And I am, because of the way I am, a bit like you, I am amazed at the incompetence and the stupidity and the lack of common sense that has gone in to so much of the decision-making over 18 months. It astonishes me, in the world we live in, probably because of what I've been through, probably because of what you know and all that these people do not realise that the forensic duty of journalists like you is to get the truth. Let me read you this from Alan in Middlesbrough. Dan Hodges has done great work here. Please tell him, this cover-up evokes memories of Barnard Castle. I have mates in Durham Plod, and everyone knew that that was a cover-up, and this smacks of the same. That's the duty, I think, of journalists to do this. But I can't, Dan, in my head work out, maybe I'm stupid, how did they or did he think that we were going to swallow this BS? Because you only have to look at the man when he's confronted with the very question that you say Kemi should start with again. He blinks, he sweats, and every newspaper and every journalist and every commentator goes, I don't believe a bloody word that man says. I just don't get it. I don't
But
get
also, but that's the thing. I mean, you started off. I mean, I used exactly the same line in my column yesterday. You know, the idea that the phone was just stolen. Yeah. You know, that the phone is just stolen, and the messages, right? And as a result of that, some of the messages have been, some if not all of the messages have been lost. As you said, it's the Rebecca Vardy line, and the point is, we're getting to the point now where they're not just, Keir Starmer is not just lying to the country and lying to the British people. He's treating them as if they're fools. Yeah. You know, he genuinely we've still got a situation where, despite all this, right, we're talking about this again, mobile phones being lost, McSweeney interviewing Mandelson, and Mandelson was his mate, and it was McSweeney who was doing the due diligence on Peter Mandelson. Remember, Keir Starmer's official line, what he literally told the House of Commons, you know, where you're supposed to tell the truth on pain of resignation, he's still sticking to the line that in relation to the Mandelson saga, due process that applies to the appointment of all ambassadors who were appointed, due process was followed. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Is this? I mean, I've got a couple of texts for you, quick, because I saw that Snowden guy take him on the other day. I thought it was an utterly brilliant piece of parliamentary questioning by Andrew Snowden when he comes here with guff every single day. I repeat the question of Manson again and again and again. Mark says, could they not be guilty of perverting the course of justice? I don't know. Tony says, this scandal is beginning to sound like Hunter Biden's laptop. Mike in Bournemouth, though, Dan, I think this is, he says, the way things are progressing with Starmer, this could well be their version of Watergate. Final question for you. Is this worse than Partygate?
I don't know if it's worse, because Partygate, you know, what Partygate was, what the great myth of Partygate, it was just a piece of cake. It wasn't. It was about whether or not the Prime Minister and his aides were making the same sacrifice at a moment of national crisis that everyone else in the country.
But it was about lying, in essence, and
it was about, and he lied about it. The person who consistently and persistently nailed him about those lies was Keir Starmer himself, even up till the point that when it emerged that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak had mislaid messages from the COVID crisis and mislaid phones, you know, after the event, Labour again pounced on that and accused them of misleading the public. And it's as I said, it's not just the lying, and it's not actually just the cover-up. It's just the sheer hypocrisy of the way Keir Starmer lectured everybody, Boris, everybody, pledged to the country, vote for me and I will be better, and crucially, I will be different. And we can see that he isn't.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure. Please keep the work going. Always delighted to have you on. Fine piece of work. He's not going to let Keir Starmer off the hook. The brilliant Dan Hodges, commentator, Mail and Sunday Mail, 9:21. Samara Gill is next. Are we doing this, Phil? Are we doing this? Is this a voice note to do here? Morning, Phil.
Good morning, Jeremy. Phil from Hearts. Been up since 5, working, part of Alarm Clock Britain. I've got to say, Jeremy, I'm just fed up with the wind that keeps blowing around us and just bringing doom and gloom to this country. I'm fed up talking about it. I love the show, Jez, and all of your co-presenters.
crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:25. We're live across the UK. Talk breakfast on until 10. It's the home of common sense and the home of free speech, and it's the home of one of the most talented broadcasters in the history of my entire 30-year broadcasting career. Good morning, Samara Gill. How nice was that?
Wow, I think I'm sat next to a good broadcaster.
Well,
I've got two in the room here, but I wouldn't put myself in that category.
Next to you is somebody we should bow down to. Talk about going viral. It's very good to meet you, Dolph Foreman. Before we get into this whole thing, breaking news, which is really important because it covers the story that we're going to talk about, which is, of course, that appalling attack on those 4 ambulances the other day in Golders Green in London. We launched this story at about 6:30 on Monday. The BBC didn't show it till 10 o'clock. Breaking news in the last hour and a half, the Metropolitan Police confirming that 2 men aged 47 and 45 have been arrested in connection with that disgusting anti-Semitic attack. The Met Police said they will update as and when, but 47 and 45-year-old man, 2 men arrested, and they are being questioned right now by Metropolitan Police. Samara, I sent you down there on Monday. I make no secret of, and I'm delighted to meet you, I make no secret of how I feel about this. I've said until everybody just wants to leave the room that I don't understand how we now live in a society where anti-Semitism in this country isn't viewed in the same way as other appalling racism. I've got Jewish friends, I've said it repeatedly, whose kids can't go on the bus in their blazers for fear. It embarrasses me, right? When you were down there the other day, I mean, and it's become such a big story, this story wasn't going to be covered by any other news outlet, it seemed.
Well, it wasn't, and then Al Jazeera, that sort of bastion of greatness and good, and they've just been spewing amazing non-anti-Semitic stuff. Or what? No, I lie. They are part of the problem. I think they're implicit in whatever's happened because they've continued to basically publish things that aren't wrong. They've been using Hamas figures. Obviously, on October the 7th, one of their journalists went in and reported on the other side. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dog. And I just want to show you what happened when Al Jazeera had the temerity to show up a couple hours after we...
They turned up at Golders Green?
Yes.
Oh, let's play this. This will be great.
How dare you? How dare you call me an
I can't define my own racism. I can't define my own racism. Don't tell me what's racism against me and what's not.
How dare you?
Don't tell me what's racism against me and what's not.
Shame on you.
Let's just talk to you, Dov. I'm so delighted you're here. As I said to you, am beyond embarrassed. There seems to be a sort of institutionalised belief in this country that the way the Jewish community is treated is not as important. Before we talk about what happened to you yesterday on a station that I once worked for, how is that as a Jewish person? How is it as a Jewish man living in Great Britain right now?
Well, it baffles me that the Jewish community, a proud British community, a patriotic community who have given so much to this country and just want to go about their everyday lives like everyone else, is treated in this way. not only has the promise of never again been completely broken down and faltered, because never again did not mean that never again would we see a Holocaust, because of course we won't see gas chambers in Europe again. Never again meant...
And let's make the point, you're the great-grandson of a Holocaust survivor.
Yes, my great-grandmother survived Auschwitz. She moved to this country in the hope that she would be able to rebuild a proud Jewish life, and for so many decades she did do that. She built a large and loving family of 10 grandchildren, 38 great-grandchildren, and she loved this country. She loved this country, and she would have been so sad to see this attack, the Manchester terrorist attack, in which 2 innocent Jewish people were murdered simply for being Jewish on the streets of the United Kingdom.
Why is it, do you think, and I will play that clip in a sec, why is that my country that's embarrassing me even more on a daily basis, why is anti-Semitism so goddamn acceptable?
Well, I don't have the answer. I think that too many people excuse anti-Semitism, too many people in the media, and we're going to get to this conversation when we speak about anti-Semitism, feels that we have to play some sort of context within it, or have this whataboutery, what about the iftar in Trafalgar Square is what I was asked the other day. Too many people think that they have to placate the Islamist extremists on our streets, whether this is politicians or people in the media.
Why?
And whenever they talk about anti-Semitism, they feel that they have to talk about other community tensions.
Why is racism against Islam, which I also don't condone in any way, more important? Well, I'm going to say it, I'll probably get into trouble. Is it because of the colour of his skin? Is it because Jews are white? Is that why they don't get treated the same way?
Well, I don't have the answer. Perhaps that is one of the things which Jews are white presenting, but actually Jews are not white.
No, but I don't understand how a government... I mean... You see hate marches spewing horrible, horrible facts, but not facts, lies about the Jewish community. I was watching one the other day. There's a Jewish flag being set fire to, and a bloke walked past with a Union Jack. We saw this, didn't we? And he promptly gets arrested. If you're allowing that atmosphere on the streets of this country, then you could be accused of being anti-Semitic. And of course, the Labour Party, there's a history to this. Anyway, this is all a precursor. Did you see what I did there? Yesterday, there's a morning programme on the station called, is it ITV? Called Good Morning Britain. Ed Balls managed somehow to end up as the presenter of that programme, along with the very humorous Susanna Reid. Ed Balls, of course, is married. Mrs Balls is the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper. Ed Balls was a Labour MP, was Chancellor of the Exchequer. The Labour policy towards Jews has been questioned repeatedly in the last few years, certainly under Corbyn. Keir Starmer came to Paris and said, I've rid this party of anti-Semitism. Yesterday, you were on GMB, and I'm just going to play this. Well done to you. This is Mr. Balls talking to my friend Dov here yesterday on GMB.
And Dov, when you see last week the Shadow Justice Secretary Nick Timothy singling out the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, for praying in Trafalgar Square in a Muslim group, and saying that is wrong and shouldn't happen, isn't that the kind of intolerance and divisiveness which is causing problems in the Jewish community right now? Do you condemn that as well?
Well, look, I think that the Shadow Justice Secretary was going to a point which many people in this country feel about Islamist extremism. I won't get drawn into a debate on whether his words were right or wrong. We're here to talk about this anti-Semitic attack this morning on the Jewish community.
Is Ed Balls, in your mind, an example of... I know this isn't anti-Labour, this is any politician, but this is the Labour Party. Is he an example of a politician who panders, or has pandered, to the Muslim vote to the detriment? This is how I would have put it. I don't think the Nick Timothy thing's relevant at all. Labour MPs are losing their seats left, right and centre. To many instances to MPs, well, candidates who just talk about Gaza and look at what Netanyahu's doing and think that every single Jew should be exterminated. Let's be perfectly honest about that, right? That plays into the narrative. Ed Balls making that analogy is a disgusting example, in my humble opinion, of the sort of anti-Semitism, I can't even say the word, help me out,
Anti-Semitism.
No, rhetoric that is prevalent. That's very irresponsible broadcasting, isn't it?
Well, I don't think this is a problem which is isolated to Ed Balls or the Labour Party. Firstly, successive governments have let the Jewish community down, have simply thrown money at security whilst not trying to tackle the ideology that exists on our streets, that's increasingly ever prevalent in society, of Islamist extremism that's running rife, that so many, not just Jewish people, but British people are worried about. And it goes back to the point I said in my first answer to you, which is that too many people in the media too many people in politics are worried about what the people at home, what their voting blocs might think if they actually care about anti-Jewish hatred, if they actually try and do something against it, if they try and actually speak about the ideology that exists behind it, not just if they're interviewing a Jew, worried about the fact that 4 ambulances which belong to the Jewish community, which
funded
serve not just
and
Jews,
driven by
but
the Jewish
anyone who
community.
calls them, exactly, and he feels that he has to ask me about another community because presumably he's worried about what the viewers might think at home. That's wrong, and that's what contributes to this anti-Semitism, and it allows others at home to obfuscate about what this kind of anti-Semitism might be caused by. Well, that's not right. The only thing that causes anti-Semitism is the anti-Semites, is that ideology, is that Islamist extremism.
How do you stop that, pal? Do you ban the marches?
Well,
on
there's
the
a number of
streets?
things that could be done today by the Prime Minister. He keeps saying anti-Semitism has no place in Britain. We keep saying it does. So what can he do to stop it? He can ban the Muslim Brotherhood today. He can ban the IRGC today. He can ban hate preachers coming into this country, going into schools, universities, mosques, radicalising our young people, radicalising people across this country. He can ban phrases. He said that Intifada, globalised the Intifada until victory from the river to the sea. He said that these were anti-Semitic phrases. Time and time again, they get arrested, or, well, rarely they do, but when they do, they get to the CPS and they completely fall through. They never get prosecuted. This is a man who has a lot of experience with the CPS. He knows exactly how to reform that and to make sure that those cases do get arrested. And that would send a message to people across the country that when you do go out and chant these phrases, you will be arrested. And we need also the authorities, the police, to come out and say they got it wrong. They tried to take a soft touch approach when it came to Islamist extremism, when it came to anti-Jewish hatred. They got it wrong. It's time for them to hold their hands up and to say, we've got it wrong, we've failed the Jewish community, and we're going to change from here on.
Have the Labour Party failed the Jewish community?
Absolutely. The Labour Party, the government, successive governments have failed the Jewish community. We can't just keep building ever thicker doors, higher fences. The Jewish community is besieged by security, and many people will have woken up on Monday morning, many Jewish people, whilst eating their breakfast, watching programmes like these, they will have questioned again, is this a country I want to continue to live in? Is this a country which is safe for me and my family? And I can tell you that many of my friends feel it's not, and many of my friends are packing up and leaving.
And I told Samara this the other day. I'm an old man. I was at the airport the other day. A traditional Orthodox Jewish man and his wife, and I'm just on the carousel. I'm not on the carousel. I'm waiting for my suitcase. I don't sit on carousels. I'm not that stupid. And I literally went and said sorry, and he said thank you. And I walked away thinking I had to say that. You share my anger. I don't understand.
Yeah, I do, because I also had relatives in the camps, and I think that, you know, anti-Semitism has gone unchecked for years, but it's also, you know, Jews have been prosecuted since the beginning of time. This isn't new, but unfortunately it's not taken seriously by the West and the governments that be, because, look, you know, if we had marchers that were just blatantly anti-Muslim out on the streets every single week, there would be some sort of action.
Uproar.
Or if it was anti-black people or something, you know, it's just really, really a soft touch approach when it comes to anti-Semitism, because it's been so rife for so long.
But I'm being like a dog with a bone for both of you, right? We can understand in terms of common sense that is fundamentally, morally, ethically wrong. Why? Why do we live in a country that is so appalled, rightly, about any form of other racism, but we have, not me, they have a blind spot? Why am I living in a country that is against the Jewish community?
Well, I think there are notions of anti-Semitism in many people's minds.
Is it because of
subconscious
Netanyahu?
anti-Semitism.
Can people not conflate the two? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, this goes back to the conversation that we were speaking about earlier. When we speak about anti-Semitism, when we speak about an attack against ambulances for no reason other than the fact that they were linked to the Jewish community, this has nothing to do with geopolitics, nothing to do with local politics or an iftar that took place in Trafalgar Square. This is simply about the anti-Semites that exist on our streets that have an ideology of hatred against the Jewish people. And that has been partly because of the othering of the Jewish people, of the Jewish homeland, Israel, the complete marginalisation of the Jewish people over the last 2.5 years, but for decades. And ultimately, when you ask why does this anti-Semitism exist and no one calls it out like they would any other form of racism, I think because there is so much subconscious anti-Semitism in people's minds. People for decades absorb on social media this kind of nonsense about how Jews are rich, powerful, how they control the government,
So
they control the weather.
Is it jealousy?
And so
Is it
perhaps
jealousy?
they begin to believe these things.
Yes, but it's also just sheer voter block.
But you would know, and this
it's 4
sounds
million people.
This sounds very simple. I have a very, very, very close Jewish friend, right? And he said to me that, you know, I've told this before, that when he was 12 or 13, whereas most, you know, parents would sit their kids down and have that really awkward conversation about the facts of life, he got sat down and told about how 6 million of his predecessors and forefathers and mothers were simply gassed to death, how he goes to football matches and opposing fans, I'm not even going to make the noise out of respect, right? But his face, what he tells me, is is like, that's what happens. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I've found a new lease of life. It is absolutely fundamentally wrong. The one thing that I take from this is that we're talking about this, which is great, is the imbalance, right? There's so much that is two-tier in this country, and certainly the way the Jewish community. But I think people cannot separate what's happening in Gaza, which is ludicrous. I think they look at a group of people, 250,000, who, as you quite rightly said, have come back here after all that happened to them and made a successful life and become successful, right? Look what Germany did after the Second World War. They closed their borders, they built BMW and Bosch and Bang & Olufsen. They became a massively successful country. I hate the fact that people think it's okay to have a go at a community that's had to go into itself and become successful and look after itself, because it embarrasses me. It infuriates me.
Yeah, but Jeremy, I mean, are you going to go attack Americans on the street because you don't agree with what Trump's doing? Are you going to go attack Iranians because of what the Ayatollah did to people? It makes no sense. Israel could do whatever and there would still be anti-Semitism on the streets because it existed well before that. And I think that you can now see that they're using Netanyahu as a sort of cover to hide behind. And even Ed Ball's statements are there because he believes, you know, almost the Jews can be blamed for this in some sort of way, or the audience would believe that. And I just find that absolutely unacceptable.
I'm sorry, going to say it, don't care. How he's not already suspended or under investigation by Ofcom for what he did yesterday, I mean, to me, completely transparently shows what's going on. I just want to play a clip, another clip of you. This really upsets me, right? Locals said they weren't shocked by what happened. Watch this.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me, because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
Just appalled, outraged, anger. Can't believe this is actually happening here in Golders Green. And these are ambulances that have actually helped my husband, who passed away 6-7 months ago. Hatzalah came and took my husband to hospital. They are absolutely angels, the people that run Hatzalah.
Just honest to God. Oh my God.
Well, I can tell you.
Final word to you, boss man.
Not one Jew that I know was shocked. Everyone had that same sentiment.
Everyone makes it even worse.
Everyone woke up and actually said, you know what, we're lucky that they targeted the ambulances. However terrible it was that then targeting people. They could have easily gone to one of our schools, to one of our synagogues. Now 2 men have been arrested. We don't know what group was behind it. An Iranian linked group has claimed responsibility, though the police have not yet confirmed, so we don't know. But it's not entirely inconceivable that the IRGC could have been behind this, and it's not inconceivable that they could have easily carried out an attack on one of the Jewish schools or synagogues whilst there were hundreds of people inside. So in a way, as I say, ironically, people were saying, wow, we're lucky that no individuals were killed, because so many Jews wake up every day knowing that perhaps today is the day when a terrorist will come and murder more Jews in cold blood on the streets of the United Kingdom. How sad, how shameful that is for this country.
Couldn't agree more. Listen, you'll find a station here that will always talk favourably from a Jewish point of view. Thank you. You're amazing. Just
to say, one of them is still on the street. Yes, they've arrested 2, but there's still one out there, you know, potentially plotting more attacks. We don't know. So I just want to let the audience know they still haven't caught that other one.
Dov, thank you very much indeed, and my love and respect to the Jewish community and your friends. And Samara, as ever, a great piece of work. Let's say good morning to Sarah. Another voice note. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's Sarah from Croydon. Just in response to Phil's voice note, I feel it. I feel the same. I feel it. I hear it. I am beyond words sometimes, and I get so down and fed up with it all, and I can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. But that's what they want, Phil. That's what they want. They want to beat us down. They want to beat us into submission, but we mustn't. They want us to shut up and go away, but we mustn't. And Dan from Epsom says it all the time. We did not vote for this, and it's about time that they stood up and listened. We've got to keep up the fight, and it's channels like Talk that keep it going for us. Many thanks.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:45. Such a varied show this morning. Tom Bauer, we're talking there to Dov Foreman as well about that Jewish attack, the attack on the Jewish ambulances. We've done so much. Thank you for all of your input. John Swanepoel from, I don't know if that's right, Swanepoel, I don't know. Oh, maybe that's a joke, is it? I don't know. He's from Poole. So it's Prime Minister's question time later. We're going to call it Prime Minister's I'm not answering any bloody questions later. How many questions do you think Stalin Starmer with the freebie clothes will answer? My guess is 0. What a farce. What a complete waste of time. Tim in Suffolk, young Dov has a bigger pair than Starmer. This UK veteran will stand with the Jewish community. Hear, hear. I've just done my civil service security training that categorically states that nothing is to be sent to personal accounts if it's marked as secure. Is those rules just for the plebs? Very good. 0344 419 1000. The war in Iran and everything that's going on, and the sort of things that we hear on a daily basis out of America, nobody seems to be able to make sense. My next guest will make sense. So good to have you back, Greg Swenson, chairman of Republicans Overseas. Good morning.
Good to see you. Great to be here.
Just back from my favourite city, the windy city of Chicago.
Yeah.
You know me, I have a job to do. Is he losing the plot, Trump? Because, and I'm just being honest, it seemed to be, it was going to be instantaneous.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't. Yesterday, in the pink tie, I thought, you're going to tell me he looked tired. He looked not at the end of his tether, but they've sent me a present. And I read something this morning that says that if he gets out of this, you know, with a promise of no nuclear deterrent and everything, there's no different than what was 5 weeks ago. Is there concern about Trump right now, seriously?
No. You know, the president is very unfiltered, and that's usually good. And then sometimes it's a little bit difficult to understand. And he also doesn't want to telegraph too much, right? You know, you can't really tell the enemy what you're planning. And so I think he's keeping his options open. It's difficult. Nobody likes war, and especially this president, right? So,
but it's difficult for him because he stood on a ticket of good economy and I won't do any foreign wars, right?
That's you know, there's no appetite for that in the U.S. right now, you know, from the left or the right. And so I think that, you know, he had to do what he had to do. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the stated goals of the war, he's actually accomplished them. You know, the Navy's been, you know, the ships have been sunk, the ballistic missile program has been not eliminated completely, but pretty much. You know,
but the Straits of Hormuz, you can't get through.
That's
was that not taken into consideration?
Oh, no, it definitely was. I mean, I'm sure they game theoried everything and plotted all the different things that could happen. That's going to be a headache because that's going to take time and more energy from the military, and
you know Andrew Neil?
I do, yeah.
He wrote, being caught in Iran's trap is the biggest mistake of either of Trump's presidencies. I do not see how he can ever recover.
Yeah, I think that's a bit much. And I think that the president, you know, he tried diplomacy, right? I mean, he didn't just go in and surprise everybody. He telegraphed it, you know, moving the carrier groups to the Gulf. I mean, that was pretty clear. And
not because Starmer, it wasn't.
No,
just so you're aware.
But
we only had one ship.
Of course,
it's only just got there, I'm afraid, and it's all over.
It hasn't been a good, you know,
HMS dragging its feet. That's what he used to call it.
But I think, you know, look, he kind of drew the red line, and when the mullahs, when the regime refused to cooperate and refused to even suggest that they could, you know, dial down the nuclear program or dial down the ballistic missile program, you know, he had no choice.
I'm not... Listen, take this the right way.
Yeah.
I've said every single day that, you know, people should remember that every single major terrorist proxy in the world, Hezbollah, the Houthis, ISIS, Hamas, were financed by these mad mullahs.
Absolutely.
My point is... the sentiment might be right. I was very critical of Keir Starmer. I've been incredibly critical of what that's done to the special relationship. But I have to make this point. we were told it would be quick. We would be told it would happen instantaneously, and it hasn't. Does he now run the risk of an Afghanistan stroke, I know Americans, Vietnam? Does he run now the risk of having to withdraw with his tail between his legs a little bit, which would be a first for him? That's I guess, the question.
Yeah. No, it's difficult. Look, as I said, there's no appetite for forever war, boots on the ground. It might be inevitable. It's not going to be 20 years. It's going to be, you know, what are we at, 4 weeks now, 3.5, 4 weeks. You know, nobody wants a long-term problem there. And it might be that regime change is the only outcome.
But of course, the problem is they keep taking out the mullahs, right?
Yeah.
And the IRG just splinters and fires. And I've got to ask you the question, because I've been saying this, and people look at me like this. Iran's capability, is it not surely down to the fact that the Russians have been helping them?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, they
do you not think that?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're helping with intelligence, but they're not really able to support them with anything but that. And we saw this in Venezuela. The Russian defensive capabilities that they sold to all of these, you know, these bad actors, Venezuela included, Iran, are useless, right? The American military has demonstrated they are the all-powerful. I mean, there is nothing Russian defense
Why haven't they been able to beat the Iranians then?
Well, I mean, it's only been 3.5 weeks, right? And so, you know, they are devastated from a military standpoint. It's just that they're terrorists, and the problem with terrorists is they can just fire random missiles. They're sending cluster munitions to civilian areas in Israel. I mean, they are really sick lunatics, and that's the problem. Is it's difficult. You can crush the Navy, you can crush their. They have no defensive.
Is the danger, of course, that that ideology, the madness that you talk about, Greg, splinters out, and a bit like with Nazi Germany, you can talk militarily, but then in terms of ideology, it's a really difficult thing to do. How's America? How are your countrymen and women genuinely reacting to this?
It's pretty much down to party lines.
Same as everything, right?
Yeah, like everything else in America right now. So 80% of Republicans support it. Even the MAGA coalition, which is they're very much anti-war, anti-boots on the ground, they're at 90%.
Are they?
The country club Republicans, like let's call it Republican Party ex-MAGA, is in the mid-50s. And so, but collectively, it's 80-20 for Republicans and 20-80 for Democrats, because they hate Trump so much that, you know, Trump could announce like free ice cream and lazy Sundays, and he'd get impeached for it, right?
Would he?
So,
yeah.
I mean, so the Democrats have. They've got no credibility left because it doesn't matter what Trump did.
What about the midterms?
And they're siding with the mullahs. That's
are they concerned, the Republicans, about the midterms?
Oh, definitely, because I mean I'm honest about it. We will lose the midterms. You know, it's very rare. Only in '98 Clinton picked up seats in '98 midterms because of the backlash against his impeachment, and then of course in 2002 Bush picked up seats because he had that tailwind from 9/11.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of unity in the country. He was polling at 70. So those were two really odd moments. Every other midterm since Roosevelt, the party in power loses seats.
Do you think because he's not looking to be re-elected again, maybe he'll change the law, but he'll have done his 2 terms, do you think that he has been deliberately more radical this time?
I'm not sure about radical. I think
probably the wrong word.
I think he's actually just feels more confident this time around. He doesn't have
more empowered.
He had a lot of people in his administration in Trump 1.0 that weren't really on his team.
Well, this is really interesting. The woman whose name I forget, who he sat the other day, the Homeland Security Minister.
Yeah, Kristi Noem.
That's the first person in a year and a half, because I remember the first presidency, it would be daily.
Turn. Yeah.
So that's different. The special relationship, which we talked about, I mean, I am just as vocal as one can be about Starmer, hideous.
Likewise.
The special relationship goes beyond 2 men, though, doesn't it?
It does. And
it's an important point to make.
I think it's sustainable, and it's a speed bump. And we had a lot of speed bumps with Biden. Remember, Biden did not like the UK.
No, not at all. He liked Ireland.
President Trump is really fond of the UK.
Just not Starmer.
And just not Starmer. And I think the Prime Minister, I gave him credit the first year. I think he did a good job. I think it's the only good job he did. Like,
do you know when I knew it was wrong? When they met the first time, and did you remember seeing Trump drop the papers and Starmer's immediately on his knees around his feet picking them up?
I mean, it was a little embarrassing, and that whole thing in Scotland at Trump's club in Scotland was awkward because you know, I mean, Trump was in the UK. This is Keir Starmer's country, and he was like the guest almost. I mean, awkward moments. But I think the Prime Minister did his best or tried his best. I even thought Peter Mandelson did a great job.
I wouldn't say that.
That's another topic, I know.
Yeah.
But prior to no, but I mean, look, before all the drama came out, I thought he did a good job. He was very pro-American.
We now know he was a complete and utter charlatan. Can I ask you what Donald Trump, Greg? Love to have more time with you, my friend. Yeah. What does Donald Trump think when he looks at Keir Starmer?
Not much. I mean, it's horrible, and I think I think that the top or the peak destruction of Keir Starmer was denying the U.S. the air bases. I mean, it's one thing not to send troops and not to risk the lives of brave young soldiers, but to deny the Diego
wait till
Garcia.
the next money's owed by NATO, or you want some help. I said it from the beginning, mate. I could talk to you all day. It's been too long. We're on breakfast now, so come wherever. Okay,
good to be back.
And give my best to all my friends in America. It's great to have you on. The legend Greg Swenson, chairman of Republican Overseas. What is it? It's 5 to 10. Julia Hartley Brewer here from 10. Get your calls in nice and early. 0344 499 1000. Ian Collins, the Housewife's Choice from 1 o'clock, and of course Kev O'Sullivan this afternoon, sounding fantastic on Drive Time from 4. Are we going to a break? Well, let's do it.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, almost 10 o'clock, and the First Lady of Talk is in the building.
A
Julia.
very, very good morning to you, sir. I'm guessing we and an awful lot of our audience are going to be the people paying for this bailout on energy bills, aren't we?
I don't think I've ever actually, genuinely, since I started doing this, I don't think I've ever felt such anger about people who are going, I call them jams, just about managing. So what, you're going to tax me again? I've got no bloody money, so that people... We need to have the debate about people who are taking advantage and sitting on the backside.
Well, exactly. And again, it was always more money for people on benefits. There'll be people who really are struggling. The people who are disabled, they need to have the heating on. But why is heating so expensive in the first place? Why does it matter?
In Iran. Don't make up.
Oh, yeah, it's nothing to do with Ed Miliband.
No,
nothing to do with that. I mean, we're just in mad territory. But all this worry about, if things carry on and this peace plan, are there talks, are there negotiations? We could look at, as some of the people who know this stuff are saying, we could be looking at a global recession. I mean,
and her thing yesterday is to blame Liz Truss and the Iran war. She's the most incompetent